County Board of Supervisors meeting, recorded April 18, 2023.
Where's my hammer? It's 5 o'clock. We'll call the Portage County Board to order. Clerk will call the roll.
We have 23 supervisors present. Supervisor Olson is remote and Supervisor Pataki is excused.
Pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation by Supervisor Keller.
To our loving God and Creator, we pray first by saying thank you for all the help you've given us so far. We could not have done any of this over the millennia without your guidance and benevolence. We ask for special help this evening to grant us all patience and calm and understanding as we express ourselves with the views that we want to share with this board, and grant us the ability to listen with sympathy and express empathy as we listen intently to what everyone has to say with utmost respect for their feelings. And then grant us all the ability to clear our mind and make decisions based solely on what we truly feel is what's best for our community as a whole. And I think that's enough. So with that, in your good name, we pray. Thank you.
Public notice. Members of the public who wish to address the county board on specific agenda items must register their requests at this time with such comments subject to reasonable control of the county board chair as set forth in Robert's Rules of Order. Has everybody had the opportunity to sign up? Anybody else want to sign up? I just want to remind everybody that when you come up to the podium to speak, that you will see a clock show up on the TV when the time is up. Please wrap it up. Keep comments addressed to the chair. If anybody, for any reason, gets loud or out of hand, I may remind you to use some decorum, and or if you continue, I may ask the sheriff to help you get out. So. Who do we have first?
Tori Jennings.
Thank you, Chair and Supervisors. First, I would like to acknowledge an incorrect comment that I previously made regarding the questionnaire given to county employees. I misread a chart and subsequently stated that the majority live within 4 miles of downtown. This is incorrect among the 86 respondents. Please pardon that mistake. Any of us can make mistakes when trying to digest a lot of information coming from different sources on complex issues as complex as the government facilities master plan. However, gaffes by a member of the public are a very different thing than intentional distortions, bias, and misinformation by county leaders. The Committee of the Whole last week was the pinnacle of a process that has not been handled well by Executive Pavelski, Chairs Haga and Jankowski. Only 11 weeks have passed since the introduction by Tegra to the Government Facilities Master Plan. Tonight, you are being asked to vote on something that doesn't exist. That is to say, a location, the most costly project of any you will face as supervisors, one that will impact generations of people, and you don't even know where it is, or do you? I want to thank those of you who will vote no tonight. By doing so, you acknowledge and value the expert opinion of our circuit court judges, the district attorney, city planners, law firms, numerous businesses and organizations, constituents, and many, many more. A no vote is a vote to move forward with a much-needed new jail and courthouse. As Supervisor Marisi explained, the fastest path to a new justice center is in fact downtown. A no vote demonstrates your circumspection about a greenfield site that appears to benefit the fewest number of people at the expense of the whole. A no vote also demonstrates your rejection of hyperbolic claims and other statements that do not actually align with the information presented to you by Tegra. Again, for those of you who will vote no on the greenfield site, I thank you, and I thank you, Chair Haga, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Kathy Johnson.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak as well. I want to address you all. One, I'm the president of the Downtown Business Alliance, but I also own a business and a building downtown, and I am a Portage County resident. I am with the understanding that many of you, or all of you, have not received my previous communications that began on February 21st, and then several sent later in March. But from what I have read, it seems like the only ones heard are those who are saying move to a green site is best for the county. Has anyone discussed the amount of money this is going to cost? And I don't mean the construction or the infrastructure, I mean the cost of tax revenue. How much the city, county, and school district will lose by putting it on a green site in a TID district. Does everyone here understand a TID and a TIF? They're kind of one and the same. One is the financial end, one is the boundaries, the district. I'm going to use the terminology TID going forward. The purpose of a TID is to create a large tax base by tax-paying entities, large companies that will not only pay large amounts of taxes, but also bring lots of employees to the area. I'm going to give you some real numbers on a current TID parcel. This parcel is 13 acres. Tax base, $4,300. Delta Dental built on it. The reassessment after completion of their building is $24 million. The tax now is $620,000 for that 13-acre parcel. Breakout of that, for a TID, $4,300 continues to go to the city, county, and schools. Once the TID closes, $150,000 each year goes to the county. $177,000 of that each year goes to the school district. $25,000 of that each year goes to Mid-State. The remainder goes to the city. Now, with a 20-acre site like you're looking at or more, I recently heard up to 40 acres, and I've only got 49 seconds left. With 20 acres, tax increment could turn out to be $1.2 million. County would get $300,000 each year, the school district $350,000, Mid-State $50,000. As you can see, it's in the best interest to bring large developments in to pay off the TID as quick as possible. The faster the TID closes, the faster we all benefit. The county benefits hugely from these TID dollars. Millions of dollars can be turned over to the county at the end of the closing of the TIDs, okay? I would like you to consider keeping the downtown, as we also lose 160 ancillary employees from downtown that shop, eat, play, and stay in the downtown area, along with the visitors that come to the area. And there's no way of measuring that. And I'm out of time. I have further to say. If you have any questions, I believe all of you got my recent letter, so you have my email. So please send me questions. I'd be happy to answer. Just want to say thank you.
Liz McDonald.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. And I'd like to second the comments that were made by the two previous speakers. I missed the last meeting last week, I guess it was, so there maybe were some things that occurred there that I was not aware of. But as I was thinking about the meeting tonight, I thought, well, here we go again. All along in this process, the public has been told that no decision was made, that the county executive, the Space and Property Committee, and other county board members had open minds. They had not made a decision about the location of the planned Justice Center. However, if you look at the meeting agenda for tonight, number 19 states approving the new government facility master plan concept at a greenfield location. So much for public input. So much for the opinion of current and retired local judges, and for the local law offices and the many citizens who spoke in favor of a central city location. I would think that the opinion and judgment of the judges and local attorneys who use the courts and other county offices on a daily basis would have some influence. Contrary to these opinions and common sense, it appears that this body is planning to move forward with the green space. I'm not going to waste my time and yours by enumerating the reasons to keep it in its current central location, but there is still an opportunity to do the right thing and vote no on the greenfield site and pursue doing the development right here in the central city. Thank you.
Charles Clark.
Good evening. I am here speaking on behalf of Farmshed regarding the SLFRF funding that is being considered tonight. This grant, if provided to Farmshed, will strengthen Farmshed's ability to support small local agriculture, especially in the area of farm to restaurant production. It will enhance Farmshed's support of small business incubation in the area of processing agricultural output from small local producers. And finally, it will strengthen Farmshed's programming that focuses on rural food access and shortening the food chain from farm to table in Portage County. I encourage you to approve this grant. It will enhance the local economy of Portage County. It will enhance the agricultural economy of Portage County. It will enhance the culture of Portage County. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Carol Malepsky.
So back to Agenda 19. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm also speaking in the spirit of my husband, John Finn, who is not here with us, who spoke before you in 2019. And I have the newspaper from that time. As you can see on the front page of the Gazette, which is now turning yellow, we came up with this same discussion. And my feeling is that, you know, he certainly thought it should be downtown, and certainly, again, the judges, the current judges, are of that same opinion. But what I have to say here is there was a time when progress meant tear down, move out, expand, extend, use the open cornfields across the country. There was plenty of it, and here in Portage County too. It was the 1950s and the 1960s. But fortunately, in 1957, the city and county officials chose to buck the trend and reuse the land here that we stand on this evening, the site of the historic 1870s courthouse, which recognized the value of this city center with the civic building 65 years ago. The city-county officials understood the importance, the value of enhancing our central city, our historical commercial district, our public square, which the city has put so much money into, a gathering place from across the area. They had the time-tested belief that, particularly in smaller communities like Stevens Point, civic buildings, invested monies should be in the heart of the county seat, not on the border of the city, in a cornfield. It enhances the functionality of county city government because they're right next door to each other. They can communicate instead of sending emails. They can do communication face to face. Obviously, we need a new courthouse. There's issues here, but I think that the city and the county should be together now. Back then, in 1957, it was a smart decision in the late 1950s, and it was made by officials with vision and respect for history in this indispensable city center community within the county, our county seat here in the heart of the city. There were questions regarding cost at the site that were only recently clarified. And in this article that I reread from 2019, it said that there may be a 10 to 15 million differential between building it downtown and building it out on the periphery. But in fact, with the clarification recently, it's a $10 a year per taxpayer differential, which is basically nothing. And that includes the $45 million parking ramp that the mayor has said really isn't necessary because there's plenty of surface parking around here.
Please wrap it up.
Okay, I will. But I'm just mentioning, I'm speaking in some ways for two people, and I will. It seems some of the county board want to continue to bring the site question forward again and again until they get the answer they want, a cornfield site, despite the 2015 decision for the downtown location. Commercial buildings may move out to the periphery of the city, but government civic buildings belong in the heart of the county seat. Thank you.
Tan Gross.
Sounds like I'm in the minority. When I first was considering the situation of the new courthouse and county building, I saw it with a newspaper article that had a map that demonstrated that building downtown would require the destruction of the Lincoln Center ADRC building. I work with ADRC, and I know that it serves hundreds and hundreds of vulnerable citizens all over the county. It can't be just cast aside in this discussion. So I asked myself then, and I asked my Portage County Supervisor, why this is even under consideration. Why would you want to tear down the Lincoln Center as part of this process? Well, I heard from them that it was a financial consideration as much as anything, that the difference between the two sites would be somewhere in the vicinity of $100 million. And I thought, oh, for $100 million, I guess we can cast away the Lincoln Center. And then I found out, oh no, it's the other way around. It's going to cost $100 million more to put it downtown. What? Where are you going with that? A little bit of research on my part, because I wasn't aware of it, tells me that Portage County has a population around 70,000 people, about 2/3 of which live outside of Stevens Point. So my wife and I would be charged at $100 million extra, $3,000 extra for a building on a site that we would find a disappointment. So again, why? I understand that a lot of the proponents of the downtown site are the same representatives supporting other Stevens Point concepts, such as the traffic lane reduction on Business 51. I guess that would make sense. And meanwhile, Portage County citizens from Rochelle to West Kellner, from Junction City to Plover to Almond, could be on the tab for an extra $100 million? I don't think so. please think about these points and then do whatever is politically appropriate. Thank you.
Mildred Neville.
Item number 19 regarding the government facilities master plan. I think tonight's vote is premature. I do not believe the downtown site has been fully and properly vetted. There should be a wholehearted collaboration with both city and county fully engaged. I do not believe this has occurred. Again, I think tonight's vote is premature. I do not believe the downtown site has been fully and properly vetted. There should be a wholehearted collaboration with both city and county fully engaged. I do not believe this has occurred. Thank you.
Mary Ann Lashesky.
Throughout recent meetings, there's been repeated emphasis on the projected cost savings for using the Greenfield site for building the Justice Center. We have also been told by Jennifer Josie, our finance director, that this would only be a negligible difference in the cost to taxpayers between the two plans that would maybe amount to $10 per taxpayer per year to build on the green site. We've also heard several other challenges to the cost variances believing between the two proposals, including the cost of the parking garage and the unknown cost of the green site and the development of that green site. My request is that costs alone may not be the major driver for your decision, but rather may we focus on the citizens for whom the facility is being built and for our community as a whole, who will be better served in the very established downtown location. Once again tonight, as through so many recent meetings in recent years, the majority of the public comments have been in support of the downtown site. We may easily say, well, this is only 30 to 50 people that have come to speak, but I have been told that each constituent that shows up at a meeting may easily represent 1,000 citizens within our city. I am inclined to believe that the majority of our community supports the downtown site based on these comments, and I would ask that we represent our constituents when you make this vote. Thank you.
Dave Iden.
He's coming. Who's next?
Good evening to all. Dave Whiten here. Thank you, Chairman and Supervisors, for the opportunity to speak. I can think of so many reasons that this should not be downtown, and I would start with the ability that you're talking about prime real estate for business. Here's where you want the heart of our community to be shown, and I don't think a jail or a courthouse would represent that well for Stevens Point. Wapaka built quite a facility. They didn't put it in the downtown area. Wapaka has a beautiful downtown area. We happen to house quite a number of our current inmates there, so they beat us to the punch. Nevertheless, parking is always going to be an issue. If you remove the ADRC, you've got another problem. Where are you going to go with that? And then you're talking about the costs of a new structure to replace that. You'd be cramming this facility in here. There would be absolutely no hope for future growth in 30 years when you decide, now we need to expand. The greenfield space, I believe, would offer a greater opportunity for security of the facility and an opportunity for growth. And my understanding is costs would be reduced. Anytime you can reduce costs and add security to a facility of this nature, and an opportunity for future growth, for whatever that would be, I think is wise. To go on, I guess I touched on cost savings, future growth, lack of parking. I'd still like to see the city utilize this for better purposes. This is not only for the city, this is for the entire county also. That being the case, I'm urging you all to think strongly about where you take this vote, and you vote for the greenfield site. I believe, in my opinion, that's just the right place to go. Thank you for your time.
Keith Kudrowski.
Keith Kudrowski, 1536 Water Street. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, County Supervisors, for letting me speak. I live 3 blocks away. I don't want this thing here. So, anyhow, downhill location offers no room for growth. It's brought up a number of times. The county has how many employees? They're saying, the city's saying this keeps their economy going. If our city council can't figure out a better way to develop this property than a government center, we have a problem in the city too. So, green space, still within the school district. I heard that brought up. I haven't seen a cornfield in Stevens Point other than my neighbor's yard. Plenty of bus routes to get people out there. So we're trying to fit 8 gallons of slop into a 5-gallon bucket. We need room to expand. It's not going to get any smaller. We're a restricted space. We're giving up riverfront, Riverview property by the city. I don't want the city to give you this land. I don't know what their problem is. So, another thing, there's a super in here who owns a number of rental properties right in this area who should abstain from this vote because he has personal gain options by his vote. This isn't about the community. This is about him, my supervisor. So,
please direct the comments to the chair.
All right. All right. Time to quit cleaning the past. Time to move on. I encourage y'all to vote for the green space. It offers opportunity for growth, and the city can grow this the way their city planners should do this. It should not be a government. This should be a private organization should be here. I mean, this is downtown Stevens Point. I don't want the government here. I would prefer them out of the country. Give me something to go shopping at, a bar to go drink at. Thank you.
Andrea Olson.
Hi, Andrea Olson, and I'm speaking on 19, the Greenfield site. So most of the people voting right now are from the same demographic population. I'd say it's a fair assumption to make that few to none of you have been survivors of a violent crime or had to deal with repercussions of that. A study has not been done in this situation, nor research to see what happens when a police presence leaves an area of high-risk individuals if developers build low-income housing near rural courthouses and jails to allow accessibility to them. This is important because Stockton citizens would be for a green site if it was thought property values would increase in Stockton and Amherst due to an increase in demand for single-family housing from employees of the justice system relocating to be closer to work. However, if it's also shown that low-income housing, crime, and the unhoused populations follow these green sites, thus moving to the Plover Library and Lake Pacwa Bandshell instead of downtown Stevens Point, people might change their minds, because I can tell you, you can't put a cost on the survivor of a violent crime. And if there is no police presence left downtown, or not police, but sheriff's presence downtown, and also the halfway houses are left here and other rehabilitation houses are left down here, and ADRC is not coming down per last two meetings, it said, you have an elderly population also left at risk down here. So if you take a look at that and you say $1 million over the span of 50 years is $20K for healthcare and housing assistance for a victim. 10 victims for 10 years is $100 million. What does your gut say right there? Does your gut say go with the Greenfield site, or does your gut say stay downtown because you have all these resources already downtown and you need to take care of the people down here also? Also, who's going to want to build a nice development next to halfway houses? Like, that's a big question, because the county might just leave them because it's county halfway house. So then you can use logic and go with your gut, and the numbers is what is being said. Logic is that a study needs to be done to assess the bigger picture of a justice campus. The research has not been done to know what keeping this downtown or moving it is the best decision. Nobody here knows. Also, really, no scholarly articles are out there. We've been told that. No research has been done on this. Tons of jails move. So we can keep it down here, or we can pay $5 million for a new water tower and $750,000 for a new electric bus, and for each one, plus $30,000 for the salary for that person driving the bus, times how many years, and have one-story buildings when half the police station roof to be repaired, because it's a flat roof, was $250,000 in 2019. We're looking at long, flat roofs having to be repaired every 10 to 20 years.
Please
So
wrap it up.
why not we be smart? You can put the fleet cars underneath the garage. You can put staff underneath the jail also. The federal courthouse, the new one just built in Nashville, did just do that.
Please
and the new
wrap
one
it up.
planned for Manhattan Boroughs Jail is also doing that. So I'd say leave it down here because you already have access for people. And if you don't, good luck getting them out there. And I hope the county wants to pay for that.
Trevor Rourke.
Don't start the clock. Trevor, you listed two items, 19 and 26 both. You get one or the other, so, or you can mesh them together, but you got 3 minutes.
Two within 3 minutes. Ready, here we go.
Either way, so.
Okay.
Either you can practice your speed reading, or you can pick one or the
All
other.
right. I didn't prepare one, so it makes it even better. Okay, 3 minutes. Here we go. So the first one, 19, with the Justice Center project. I've spoken before on this and shared my perspectives and comments about access and finances and, things like the difference between locating here downtown with those that can't afford a car versus a greenfield site where if they can't afford a car, again, it's going to be more difficult to access that facility. I've spoken about a few other things, but I really want to talk about, there have been some pretty good perspectives on both sides, and I totally understand that. What's been really frustrating to the public, I think, is the lack of transparency. Proposals have been brought forward by the public, by even some of the board members, as well as the city, that allow some flexibility in design, flexibility in the downtown location. And I still don't understand why those haven't been bubbling up more into the conversation. Importantly is that $100 million or so figure that keeps getting thrown around. However, when you actually look at removing the parking garage, leaving the ADRC as it is, keeping the annex, not demolishing it, retrofitting, connecting to it, being a little more fitting within this space and working with the city, that $100 million isn't close to accurate. It's probably going to be very similar in cost. So I wish there was more transparency in this. And that's about it. I really hope you decide to vote no tonight on the Greenfield site, because it really should remain downtown. All right, the other one is 26, I think. Yes, okay. All right, so I'm here to also speak in favor of Farm Shed's application for the SLFRF grant or ARPA funds. I've been involved with Farm Shed for 15 plus years in many ways, I guess, as a volunteer, as a customer, attending events, now also as a business partner. What they've proposed in this co-packaging proposal is very exciting. It's a huge deal for local farmers, for small businesses, for entrepreneurs to plug in with the local economy. And it makes a lot of sense for small scale food production. If they get a chance to scale up as you were, this can have a huge economic benefit for not only Stevens Point, but Portage County as a whole, because of all the food that comes from farmers within the county to this city hub. So please vote yes for funding Farm Shed's grant. Thank you.
Trevor Drake.
Good evening. First off, just like to say thank you to the Finance Committee for allowing Central Rivers Farm Shed's request to make it in front of the full county board. Thank you for the full county board for your time and consideration of approving Farm Shed's request. As many of you are community members, you might be familiar with Central Rivers Farm Shed. Over the years, we have worked on connecting the community to small local farms and food businesses. No doubt an organization with a grassroots history, but that history has placed us as a unique leader in the realm of food and small-scale agriculture. Tonight, others will speak on the behalf of what Farm Shed can do to support their businesses as entrepreneurs. I would like to highlight what, as an organization, we can do. There's no doubt that the state and local fiscal recovery funds deserve respect on achieving the county's return on investment. We have a dual approach, not only from the businesses that are established, that we are helping scale, that will source more food and more product from within the county and provide our county and the surrounding counties with more vibrant products. We also have our internal programming. This internal programming started in 2020, and it analyzed our current program of frozen assets, which remains the only frozen vegetable CSA in the state. Thanks to a Buy Local, Buy Wisconsin grant, we were able to dive into a business model and understand that it needed to be wider reaching, and frankly, a lot of demand from across the state was also looking for this type of niche and value-added processing. Portage County remains central to the state, making us an extremely advantageous entity to carry out this type of food manufacturing. Farm Shed is ready to evolve again and begin tipping the needle in economic development by providing small farms with solutions to value-added process and current entrepreneurs and future food businesses, allowing them the resources necessary to start small and graduate well above the cottage law. Any programming that generates revenue will only help the impact that we currently carry out in regards to food access and connecting all community members with a shortened food chain and an opportunity to meet and know their farmer. Thank you.
Forrest Fleischauer.
I'm Forrest Fleischauer. I'm 3160 County Road K in Custer. I'm here to speak on Farm Shed and number 19. I am a small business owner. I have a farm that I started myself. I actually had two previous small businesses that I lost overseas due to COVID and an injury. I lost all of my assets. I lost two small businesses. I lost a vehicle, and I came home with absolutely nothing. Because of the infrastructure at Farm Shed, I was able to start a new small business here with very little capital. And good ideas do not only come from people that have capital, and many people are out there waiting to invigorate our community, bring new products, and to reinvest that money into our community, but they need a tiny little bit of help. There are many people gathered here today and in the other room whose businesses use Farm Shed, have relied on Farm Shed, and have grown with Farm Shed, and the process has been vetted. These are things that are already being done on a small scale profitably for Farm Shed. And so the investment of these funds not only has been proven, but it's also something that we know can grow because the demand for those currently has been exceeded within the current space. Finally, I'd like to point out the obvious that justice is not something you can put cash value on. And if I agree, I also have some issues with the transparency that's occurred. And when we talk about justice, really the people that use this facility are generally the people that are maybe going to have issues getting places on time, or they're going to have issues with vehicles. And so expecting someone to go to these places and be at these locations in a timely fashion while simultaneously moving it to one of the least convenient places for that to happen for the general public really kind of that kind of hurts my heart, that we're already planning preemptively, hey, we need a bigger jail. Why aren't we asking questions about how do we fix these real issues instead of preemptively planning for a bigger jail that we know people won't be able to get to their justice things on time? It's like, you're going to need a bigger jail if you're asking people to jump through hoops to participate in your justice system. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm willing to pay $10 more a year if that's actually what it is to make sure that the people that need our help the most can get the justice that they deserve and is promised to them by this government in an efficient way. Thank you very much for your time.
Melissa Hack.
Hello, and thank you for your consideration of the Farm Shed SLF RF funds application. My name is Melissa Hack, and I'm the owner and operator of Fed Up Foods, a small batch artisanal canned goods business specializing in applesauce, pickled goods, and cranberry sauce. I source all of my produce ingredients from local farms and orchards, the majority of those farms in Portage County. I'm here to provide some additional details about the potential impact this funding would have on my business and the farms and businesses I support through the products that I produce. My business began in the current commercial kitchen space at Farm Shed in August of 2022, where we saw a 67% increase in output with the use of their equipment that my small business would not have been able to afford in our first year in commercial production. Even after one canning season in the current kitchen, it is clear that we need to scale up our production, and that scaling will outgrow the current space we are in. We found that we either need to collaborate with similar food businesses to share manufacturing equipment or find a willing co-packer. With the expansion of equipment and space efficiency, we expect to see a 90% increase in output by 2025, and in 3 to 5 years, our local purchasing is estimated to be $66,000. We also foresee adding at least one part-time and one seasonal employee due to increased sales and production output between 2023 and 2024, with more employment opportunities as we continue to grow. Rental of this commercial manufacturing kitchen will also mean revenue for Farm Shed, which we predict to be $13,000 annually by 2025. This investment in Farm Shed would mean an investment in more than just one organization in Portage County. Farm Shed creates opportunities for farms and businesses like Fed Up Foods to have an obvious place to take that next step. Farm Shed is a key player in growing central Wisconsin-based food products, from their commercial kitchen space to the events and programs that support small food businesses like the local food fair and the local Food Tastes Great fundraiser. Your support for this project will expand community resources that allow for startup flexibility and simultaneously create pathways for future businesses to continue growing. Thank you again for your consideration of Farm Shed's application.
Mindy McCord.
Hello, everybody. I'm here in support of agenda item number 26, supporting Farm Shed. I am the co-founder of Siren Shrub Company, a Stevens Point women-owned based beverage company. We have two product lines. We have a mixer that we make, as well as a sparkling beverage in a can. We're currently in over 400 retailers across the United States, and 2 channels of distribution and an e-commerce store are what get our product out into the world. Every flavor we produce is a partnership with a Wisconsin farm. We believe in community wealth building, so we like to see our dollars go back into our local economy. One of the ways we do that is through the way we source our ingredients, but the other way is how we source our packaging and materials, when possible, from Wisconsin companies, but we also co-manufacture with 2 co-packing companies within Wisconsin, just outside of Portage County. Your support for this funding would mean that we could produce our product within Portage County, and we could bring those co-manufacturing dollars back into our community, and we would really appreciate your support tonight. So thank you.
Christopher Claysmith.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Christopher Claysmith. I'm the Economic Development Specialist at the City of Stevens Point. Thank you all for making some time for me to be here. I would also like to thank Executive Pavelski and Chair Rakowski for the Finance Committee for heavily scrutinizing and working with myself and Trevor Drake from Central Rivers Farm Shed for analyzing the application and making sure it was as foolproof as possible coming through the application process. Farm Shed's proposal is one of the few project requests that promote economic resilience and development, and I would like to thank Trevor for working through such an arduous process to get that application to where it is now. I am hopeful that you all will follow the other requests as needed, because I believe that there are some other economic development initiatives that are being presented to that body that are very supportive of the community that you represent, as well as the community that I represent, that we all represent. The co-packing facility that Farm Shed is proposing and initiating will benefit a rather or underrepresented industry. Small agriculture remains as one of the least supported industries in our country and within our community. The existence of a well-equipped and financed and staffed co-packing facility expands the possibilities for local agriculture and value-added food producers for our region, for us to retain wealth within our community. The rate of 5 and 10-year firm survival within our community has been consistently declining since 1990. It is time that we move forward with a project that will sustain and build up the survival of our businesses. So with that, I thank you for acknowledging the request before you tonight from Central Rivers Farm Shed. It's item number 26 on your agenda. I would like you all to heavily consider approving this tonight. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that did not sign up that wishes to speak? Please step up to the podium and state your name and which item.
Hi, my name is Ashley Christinger. I'm a dietitian over at the hospital. I'm talking about item agenda number 26 and wanted to express how much I support Farm Shed, why I work with them for my own patients and the health of the community. I think there was a lot of economic and business side. I support Farm Shed because this community needs more local and healthy food. I think we realized with the COVID pandemic, especially in bigger cities, how much we're going to have to shift relying on local agriculture when we don't have all of the supply lines in place. I think we need to support a organization like Farm Shed proactively looking at future issues like that. Farm Shed's Frozen Assets program bleeds into all other kind of community programs like the ADRC, a lot of programs that my patients use and that I talk to them constantly at the hospital about. So I'm hoping you will consider that aspect too, the community health side of why we should support Farm Shed. Thank you.
Other gentlemen? Oh, okay.
You get to speak first. If you really
We'll save the best for last.
Good, all right.
Which one is that?
Speak before that.
Hello, good afternoon. My name's John Sheffy. I'm a small farmer from Almond, and I just wanted to give my support for Farm Shed in item number 26. My wife and I have a small diversified farm. We sell most of our products year-round at the farmer's market. We also have a small seasonal restaurant in Almond. And Farm Shed has helped us in so many ways over the years, start our farm and start our business. When we moved here, we didn't come from a farming background. We also didn't come from central Wisconsin. So Farm Shed helped us find our community of people, of farmers who were doing similar things, farming the way we wanted to, helped us get into the local food scene. Farm Shed started the local food fair. They've done the local food tastes great fundraiser. Lots of activities that we've participated in over the years. So Farm Shed is a proven community-based organization that has helped promote local food. This proposal for funding for the co-packing facility will really help Farm Shed become economically sustainable so they can continue to provide the community building services that farms like myself have benefited from and be sustainable into the future. So please approve Farm Shed's request. Thank you.
Thank you. If nobody else wants to speak, then we'll move on. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're a good jokester tonight, Mr. Haga. I'm Ryan Kurdowski. I'm the Director of Community Development for the City of Stevens Point. I'm here on behalf of the Common Council of the City of Stevens Point and Mayor Mike Wiesa. A few weeks ago, the City Council met with Mr. Haga and Mr. Pavelski to talk about what options are available to the county as it relates to a downtown location. And the council unanimously said everything within the memo that was dated, I believe February 17th from Mayor Wiesa and from Mr. Pavelski a few weeks later is on the table. The city has a vested interest in keeping the county courthouse and jail facilities located in our downtown. And I just want to reiterate that to this county board because I don't know if that was accurately relayed to you folks from county administration. So I'll take off my city council hat and put on the city planner hat, which I do serve as the city's primary planner. And so if anyone has questions about why we're interested in keeping this facility in the downtown, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. I do believe that we have, as a group, whether you're elected or appointed, a moral obligation to ensure that our government facilities are located in a facility that is the most advantageous to anyone regardless of socioeconomic status. And so that means that a greenfield location really provides no opportunity for those to walk, bike, or easily access through public transportation, as opposed to a downtown location, which clearly allows better access to those who may not have the means to get to a courthouse facility on a greenfield site. It was brought up previously that it only costs $3 to take a Plover taxi to a greenfield site, as an example. Well, $3 one way, that's $6 to go back to your home, as an example. That's a pretty significant dollar amount for somebody who may make $12, $15 an hour, who has to go interact with the court system. Second of all, the professionals, including the judges, the DA, city planning staff, and others, strongly believe that this facility should be located in the downtown area. I think it's inappropriate to dismiss that. I think that's a really critical component. These are the folks that are utilizing or interacting with these with the folks in and out of the system on a regular basis, and they're saying the best location is in the downtown location. So I really implore you to take that into serious consideration. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'll step out into the overflow room. But as you're having the discussion on the Greenfield versus downtown site this evening, if you have questions for the city, I am able to answer those on behalf of the Common Council and Mayor Wiesa. We had a reorganization meeting tonight because of the recent election, so he wasn't able to make it, so that's why I'm here on his behalf. So thank you.
Again, is there anyone else that needed to speak or wishes to speak? Did not sign up? All right. Moving on. Correspondence.
Out of office Portage County Clerk, out of county resolutions were attached in your packet. Second was the special meeting attendance form and committee minutes memo. And third is the 2023 Wisconsin Counties Association's annual conference registration.
So some of you newer folks have maybe had not had the opportunity to take part in that conference. Talk to some of the other supervisors that maybe have and see if it's worthwhile. But there's a lot of good breakout sessions in there. So if you wish to go, make sure you get that slip into the clerk's office so they can get the rooms reserved for you. Presentations. We have Abby Lichtenschild. I don't know if I'm getting this right. Lichtscheidel. Thank you. I think these people do this to me on purpose, but come on up front, please. Portage County Solid Waste Site Coordinator, recognition of Solid Waste Association of North America, Badger Chapter Young Professionals of the Year Award.
So each year, the Badger chapter of the Solid Waste Association of North America recognizes a young professional for their outstanding work in their field of resource management. This year, Abby Lichtscheidel, Portage County Solid Waste Site Coordinator, was honored by receiving this prestigious Young Professional of the Year award. So congratulations, Abby. Couldn't be happier.
Abby, did you want to say anything? If you don't, that's fine.
I just love being young. And that's kind of a joke. I accepted the award and I didn't really prepare anything to say afterwards. So they welcomed me up and I'm like, man, what does it mean to be a young professional? I'm like, well, you got to be young. I love being young. So, but all joking aside, I've been a part of SWANA's organization since 2015, since I was a student here at the university, and they're just full of really great people trying to do better in the solid waste and recycling world. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
So at the award, did they get your name right?
Honestly not. It was closer, but they were still.
Well, I'm consistent then with that, but I'm glad that we have folks, and I try to make sure that the people that we get recognized throughout the county, everybody realizes that, and we're able to celebrate that with them. And I think that we are truly fortunate in Portage County to have these two young ladies that are out there at Solid Waste to represent that. I've never seen anybody so excited about the trash and the garbage, but it's great, and we're very lucky to have both of you, and you guys do a fantastic job out there, so thank you for that. But We've got a few comments. So first, Supervisor Gifford, then Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Yeah, I just want to say, serving on the Solid Waste Management Board, I know you've heard me say the joke that National Geographic should do a story, The Women of Solid Waste, because the way this department is run is just so well run and competent, and just I never have any doubts about what you're reporting and so forth. And solid waste is an important part of the sustainability picture. And what Abby's doing every day is trying to keep a closed waste facility from offering any danger, to the environment and our people. It's that maybe an unrecognized, super important job that you're doing out there. So thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on the lighter side quickly, I'm not excited about being old.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
Next, we have up the Sheriff Mike Lucas, Portage County Sheriff's Office 2022 Annual Report. He promised to make this short.
10 minutes, guy. 3 minutes. Oh, yeah, 3 minutes.
I've never had to start the clock on the sheriff, so.
I feel the love. So I just heard somebody likes being young. Well, I like being old. And I thank everybody for coming for my annual report. I see that we got an overflow room even tonight for that. So, no, in all seriousness, I want to relay something in a serious note from Chief Kuso. He wants to relay all the kind wishes that you guys have sent to me to relay to him in regards to the tragedy that happened here in Stevens Point with the police shooting. So I want to thank all the county board that reached out to me to give messages to the chief. I also want to send my condolences up to Chetek and Cameron, and also Polk County in Minnesota with the recent shooting deaths of the officers. As you can see, last 2 weeks has been pretty tough for law enforcement. So looking through the annual report, you'll see some of the things that go on here in Portage County. And I welcome questions at the end. I am going to go over this kind of quickly because I know there's other pressing things that you guys are doing tonight. You do have your annual report, so if you want to open it up, you can page along with me. On the page 2 where it talks about the big picture, you can look at some of the things that went on in 2022. We were very grateful in regards to our grant writers in our sheriff's office in regards to not only writing grants, but receiving grants, and also some major donations that we received that we were able to upgrade our 911 to Next Gen 911 to get text. We were also able to upgrade the dispatch to get SCNet, which also improves our dispatch center and also gives video and pictures along with the 911 system. We were able to reorganize the sheriff's office in 2022 to get the community officer that the county board approved, along with much hard work by the highway commissioner, Nathan Check, in regards to the recreational and highway officers that are out there now. We replaced our public safety software, which was a major undertaking for all divisions in the sheriff's office. We went to the Flex, Motorola Flex, which is all software for the sheriff's office. So it was a major learning step for all law enforcement agencies, our administrative staff, corrections, every division. It was a factor in regards to changing over. Also was a major undertaking for Portage County. Since I've been elected, I've been trying to get body cameras for the sheriff's office, and we were able to receive a community foundation grant from Ron Kine through the federal government, and we were able to implement body cameras for all of Portage County, which I mean the corrections and operations. So we implemented those in 2022. The other part of it is implementing this year with the in-car cameras. Reason why it wasn't implemented right away is because of manufacturer delays and back orders for the in-car cameras. But that's coming up. All our squads will have new in-car cameras along with license plate readers, which will be very beneficial to Portage County. Again, we had some large donations in regards to updated equipment for our special response team and also new weapons for the sheriff's office. I don't like asking people for donations, but when they offer, I'll take it. So if anybody wants to give donations, I'm game. We also did receive the 4th supervisor position that was implemented this last year. So now we have 24-hour supervision in our communication center. When we talk about the communication center, I'll explain a little bit more in regards to some staffing. We'll talk about some of the staff. The sheriff's office has 111 full-time employees, 2 on-call casual. We are at 47 sworn officers, 34 correction, 20 communications, 5 administration, and then we have the emergency medical services coordinator, emergency management coordinator, and a deputy emergency management coordinator. So we are, unlike, I think, any sheriff's office in the state of Wisconsin, we have 5 divisions. So we have a well-rounded, I think it's an excellent opportunity for collaboration throughout all agencies because we have all those agencies in our office. You can see in regards to staffing levels and some of the patrol areas, I went over that. But if you have questions in regards to that, how many square miles and how many deputies are on, that's all in there. You can look at the next page on page 5 where it talks about injuries and use of force. The use of force was added by one of the county board, asked for these stats. So these are something that you can see in regards to law enforcement deals with a lot of people in regards to everyday arrests and citations and our corrections officers. And you can see on the bottom where it talks about we had 112 incidents, and that's any incident that is not dealing with just somebody a compliant handcuffing. So if we go hands-on, we have to do a arm carry, we have to do anything with a taser, with OC, with any kind of use of force. It is documented and reviewed by a review board, make sure we comply with policy and also by state law. But you can see that in contrast, deputies, we issued 2,600 citations, made 429 arrests. The corrections officers booked in almost 1,500 people, and they are dealing with a population of the jail every day that are not very happy. So I think we do an outstanding job in regards to our use of force, and I commend my officers and my corrections officers for that. You can see in regards to page 6 and 7 that talks about the duties of the office of the sheriff in regards to what we are mandated by statute in regards to the duties that we do. And it can talk about why it's called an office, not a department. That was my old chief deputy, made sure we got that in there. On page 8, you can see the organizational chart of the sheriff's office that has the 5 divisions. Then you go to page 9 and 10, and it talks about our operations division. That is the patrol, that is the people up here in the court services, all those divisions, and you can talk about all the different types of things that the operations does, along with the extra activities on the bottom of the page of page 9 that the officers do. But Portage County is unlike a lot of counties too. We only have basic 2 or 3 law enforcement agencies throughout the county. We have Stevens Point, Pulver, and UWSP, where if you go to Wood, Marathon, Waushara, there's a lot of small police departments in every municipality where we cover the majority of those. K-9 units, we have 2 K-9 units. We have Indy and Lexa on the sheriff's office now. We had 1 retire in 2022. That was Lady, that you can see on page 11. You can see some of the incidents that the K-9s have actually done in 2022, and I will tell you those incidents were lower because of COVID. We're finally getting back into regards to some of the pre-COVID era in regards to the patrol, the in-person contact, things like that, due to the fact that there were some guidelines set in regards to what was going on. You can also see that with the county board, you gave the additional deputy for the community officer with the highway patrol. And so we have a community DNR recreational officer, and they do a lot of duties out there, and it's documented so that we can track in regards to how many patrol hours they do in construction zones, what they do for the recreational officer, and then they hold regular office hours in the municipalities out in the county throughout the week. We have a community resource officer that goes into the schools in the outline in Almond, Rosholt, Amherst, Stevens Point school districts. That's in Junction City and also in Whiting, and then we also go in the Wisconsin Rapids School District in the town of Grant. And we do all the school programs that are listed there. And on the next page, on page 14, it talks about how many kids we usually service in regards to that. Let me get going here. You can look on page 17, it talks about our Detective Bureau and the operations. Our Detective Bureau is staffed with 5 investigators and a drug officer. There were 153 investigations in 2022. We have also in the Central Wisconsin Drug Unit, and new to 23, we actually partnered up with the FBI, and we are now involved in the the Central Wisconsin Narcotics Task Force. So we have a full-time officer in that that is working federally through here in the state of Wisconsin. And so not only do we get the state, we have the state Central Wisconsin Task Force, but we also have the federal. And you can see on page 18 in regards to the task force, in regards to the drugs that are prevalent here at Portage County. And when we talk about our problems here in the county, this is our number one problem, is our drug problem. You can see in 2022, some of the numbers decreased, but that was because the caseload went to the Central Wisconsin Task Force or different agencies because our officer was new. But you can see that in regards to crack, cocaine of all of their forms, it has increased dramatically, along with methamphetamines. So the heroin has dropped a little bit, but these other drugs have taken over in regards to that. So we do have a serious problem in regards to drugs, and we are trying to address that by putting more people in these units to try to get the big players, not the little players, so that we can get it out of our society, or out of Central Wisconsin here. You've all dealt with page 21, our court services unit. This is the people that actually screen, are the security for the courts, and also do all the trips for our inmates, bring over the inmates in regards to court, and transport and pick up anybody throughout the state when they're picked up on warrants, or they have court appearances from other agencies or state prisons. So you can see the workload that they go on and how many weapons and screening per month, but I mean, they screen 25, almost 26,000 people a year, and that was low. It's usually about 32,000. Communication Center, we talked about. Study stated when I first was elected that we should have 26 communication technicians. We have 20, but we're 5 short. So I am constantly trying to get my staff, full staff there, but communication technicians are definitely a different, I would say a different breed, because they have multitasking, all different things that have to be done, but they are the lifeline to you guys calling. So if anybody knows anybody that's a good multitasker, have them apply. But you can see in 2022, we had 107,000 nearly telephone calls to the dispatch center. 15,000, almost 16,000 were emergent, 90,000 were non-emergent calls. They dispatched 48,000 calls for service, and the average calls per month are about 4,000 per month, 935 calls per week, and 133 calls a day. They also monitor 20 radio channels, and on the bottom of the page you can see all the channels that they have to monitor while they're going through this, because it's not just law enforcement, but it's EMS, it's first responders, it's fire departments, it's everything throughout the county that is going on. And these last weeks before we had snow, or last couple days when it was 80 degrees, we were having fires everywhere, and they were extremely busy. Let's see. Let's go to page 28, emergency management. Emergency management was new to us back in, I think, 2018. But we have a coordinator right now. We are short a deputy coordinator, but she is being sworn in the first of the month. So we will be full staffed in the emergency management department. But they do all different kinds of things throughout the county, and they're rebuilding the county's disaster management program to all kinds of things that are mandated by the state. They do an excellent job in regards to resources when we have disasters, in regards to the state emergency management plan and our EOP. Our emergency operations center, Bob has got it ship shape ready to go, and we've utilized it through the COVID process. You can see some of the exercises that they do. The regional dam exercise, numerous counties in the Northeast state communication coordination to make sure we're operable throughout the state. They also work with the hazardous materials teams throughout the county, and they also have supported the SIMCOM, the ham radio, throughout Portage County. Emergency medical services. This is the basic ambulance throughout Portage County, and our emergency management coordinator coordinates all the responses and the complaints and the billing throughout Portage County with our providers that we contract with. We have 3 that we contract with: the Stevens Point Police, Plover Stevens Point Fire Department, the Plover Fire Department, and also Amherst Fire Department, and the town of Grant contracts out with United Emergency Medical. We also coordinate events to try to get the EMRs, because without the EMRs in Portage County, we'd be hurting. They do an outstanding job of triage prior to the ambulances. So we really promote our EMR groups and offer grants to them so they can get the training and equipment that they needed. You can see on page 32 that in 2022, ALS, BLS calls and total calls, 3,600 calls for service for ambulances throughout 2022. And then you can see in regards to the billable and the revenue that Portage County receives throughout 2022. Our bill rate and our revenue, we have a collection agency that does this, so we get a pretty high rate actually in regards to what we receive. Depends on the Medicare rate and things like that. I'm trying to get through here, guys, sorry. Corrections Division. That is probably one of the most challenging divisions we have in regards to corrections because they're in 24/7, no windows, so they have an opportunity for the rehabilitation and also the care of the inmates along with their safety and security. As I stated, working a corrections officer is very stressful. They are expected to work long hours, nights, weeks, and holidays, and they also continually placed in stressful situations with inmates who are uncooperative, aggressive, and unpleasant. Can be dangerous and a thankless profession. We have 26 full-time corrections officers right now, 5 full-time corrections corporals, a corrections sergeant, a juvenile detention superintendent, and a corrections captain. The corrections division also has a full-time social worker in the jail, along with a full-time nurse and a part-time nurse practitioner. So you can see in regards to page 38 some of the improvements that we did throughout the year, and it talks about some of our camera systems, it talks about our body cams being implemented, and there's numerous different things that Captain Leach has put in and done to that jail to make it safer and more secure. It talks on page 39 about the operational improvements, the food service. We contract out to Summit Food Services for our meals. We also have the health services, Southern Health Partners, that is in there with the nurse and the nurse practitioner, because our priority is rehabilitation. So we want to make sure that we have all the services. And when we talk about these services, when I ship my inmates out, those inmates don't get these services. So just so you realize that, I mean, what I'm talking about, except for the nurse, I think just about every jail has nurses, but a lot of the jails don't have social workers for mental health, for AODA, for any of these other services that are associated. So on page 40, you'll talk about the mental health services that are offered through HHS, through our psychiatrists, our jail social worker, alcohol and drug abuse services. We've got trauma abuse services, Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Veteran Services, chaplain, jail chaplain. We'd have the HSEAD for the education. You know, we would do more, but we don't have space in the jail for all the classes for Mid-State that wants to come in and offer these. So, and the other problem is we start these and then they get shipped to Wapaka and they don't get to continue them. So that's kind of a downfall, or you know, move out of the area. You can see all the students that we serve through 2022 on page 42, and it also talks about some of the other programs on page 43. Electronic monitoring, everybody's always interested in that in regards to how much it saves the county. Last year it saved us about 150,000, but it also talks about 4,080 days that was saved for the county of jail bed days in regards to having the electronic monitoring. We averaged 11.2 people on electronic monitoring a day, which is fairly significant if you think about shipping 11 or 12 people at $38 a day, even if we ship them, the cost on that. And then you look at the Juvenile Detention Center. Juvenile Detention Center has been very active in 2020, or especially through the COVID, because a lot of the juvenile detention centers closed throughout the state. So we have contracted out through many different counties, and also got a lot of juveniles from other counties not contracted. So you can see our average population through the year is 9.5 juveniles in our facility. Average length of stay is 18.2 days. You can also see that on page 47, it talks about the revenue that Portage County did receive in 2022 was $475,000 for our juvenile detention center. It saved us only $50,000 because Portage County only locked or secured detention 0.9 in Portage County youths a day. Then you can see the cumulative transportation costs, the average daily population, the maximum daily population on page 49, the cumulative costs that have occurred, since we started doing this for when we were talking about a jail way back when. And you can see in regards to how many jail beds are needed for our average or maximum daily population here throughout the year in 2022. But as you can see, the uptick has steadily gone up, but you can also see from 2015 and on, we've maintained a pretty good level plateau where we're able to do the home monitoring and also do the rehabilitation programs to make sure we're not incarcerating people that shouldn't be. Okay. Let me just see. Then we talk about our records division. We have 5 full-time civilian record specialists. We have a lead, we have 3 record specialists, and we have an administrative service supervisor. These are the lifeblood of the sheriff's office, to be honest with you, because they do all the paperwork, make sure everything's ready for the DA, make sure when you come in for open records or any kind of questions, they're up there to greet you. So they make the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's office look pretty smooth, where if it was me up there, it wouldn't be that smooth. So I give them a lot of credit because you can see all the job that they do on page 52 and 53. And then you can see on the page 55, it talks about some of the tallies of crimes that occurred throughout Portage County through 2022. They also keep these stats for us in regards to doing this.
Right now. That's your buddy Stan.
Hi Stan, I heard you. So just a couple I highlighted in regards to 2022: the aggravated assaults, the rape, simple assaults, and theft of motor vehicle parts all increased dramatically. Those are just some of the major changes that we had throughout 2022. You can see that some of the operating and vehicle offenses actually decreased a little bit, which is good, and along with the crashes decreased slightly in 2022. Last thing, I preach to my officers, not just on the road, but the corrections in every 5 divisions, the community engagement, that they're out and about so that everybody sees us in a little different light. We're not just enforcing laws, but we're out there to make people feel safe, make people feel comfortable coming up to us and know who they are because they pay our salaries. So I want them to do that. And on page 58, you can see some of the things that we do for community engagement throughout Portage County. And I feel that that's very important. And anytime that there's a community event and you, as a county board, know about it, let me know because I gladly have my officers come out there or myself. And then the last but not least, on recognizing great work, you can see on page 61, we had some life-saving awards and meritorious conduct awards. We do these now on a monthly basis. We'll be doing some this next Wednesday in regards to some life-saving awards, because our guys do not, guys and gals, sorry, do not get the notoriety that they deserve. And that's partially on me, because we take it for granted a lot of times in regards to what they do. But I think people need to see what these people do on a day-by-day basis. This is from the jail to dispatch to our officers on the road. So with that, I'll take questions.
Supervisor Gifford, then Supervisor Medine.
Yeah, and you asked me before the meeting if I had read the report and if I had any questions, and I had been speed reading it. And there's a few things that stand out to me. One is I see you mentioning the difficulty of staffing and maintaining staff because of the constraint on wages and salaries, the compensation of people in your department. And this is another one of those things I'm going to get on the soapbox again, that the state legislature has to start releasing money back down the food chain to our local governments, rather than taking the stand that, oh, we're going to clamp down on crime and, throw a bunch of people in jail. Rather, your whole report shows the whole different approach that this county is taking. All those services, the health, mental health, the AODA, AA and NARC services, the trauma and abuse, all of that, we can't do it when we're shipping people, as you point out. So it does highlight the need for a well-funded, well-constructed, well-staffed new building for the incarceration and rehabilitation part. So I mean, I'm with you all the way on that, and I think that things like going out to the schools, talking to the kids, that community outreach stuff is it's not like soft liberal stuff. It's important, it's important to maintain community. And again, you got to have money to do that, and you got to have the people that are dedicated.
I always have sticker badges.
Yeah, who feel well rewarded and appreciated and compensated for what they do. So, the minimum staffing level that you mentioned on, I think it was on page 15 in our packet, that's got to be addressed, and I'm with you on that all the way. And then I think you're going a very favorable direction away from this clamp down on crime stuff, And yeah, the drug abuse problem is on the rise, but I think we can trace that to the level of the economic and social stress that's rising in all of our communities. And drugs are not the relief from that, but they actually exacerbate the stress. But it's going to take a lot of people, a lot of work to overcome that. So thanks for all you do.
Thanks. And I will say, space is the issue. Space is the issue for these programs. But, the state has taken a step, because they did approve the AB 28 for the corrections officers, which is the protective status for corrections officers. And I'll be pestering the county exec, the finance director, and all of you coming up in regards to how we're going to be able to help those individuals get into AB 28 coming up, so that it's not a 6.5% pay decrease for them to get in. That's to come.
Supervisor Medine.
Our Detective Division Bureau is second to none. A murder supposedly 30 years ago on a young lady out on Highway 54, which is noted on in the last page.
Yep.
Talked to anybody in the community at that time, and they knew who did it. And so that reverberated throughout the community for 30 years now. And I don't know how you kept track of that, because when you got someone who was really good at forensics fairly recently and pulled that up and really solved that and made a lot of us who thought 30 years ago that some of these things are unsolvable, you made them solvable, you never gave up. the whole team for 30 years, all the guys who have retired, kept that in their mind, alive, in the records. And I'm really proud of that division. There's a lot of people in this community feel the same way.
Yep, and I will reiterate that they are second to none, and I will give praise to the original investigators that preserved that scene and preserved the evidence so that we were able to evaluate it when we had the technology to evaluate it. So I give them kudos too.
Thank you.
Supervisor Splinter, you had your hand halfway up.
It's up.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to be. I think the public would probably like to know. I mean, the big question is always, if something happens, how far away is a sheriff patrol? And I know there's 4 different sectors of our county. 3. And at least, I don't know, maybe there's only 3. But how many are there? Is there someone constantly patrolling in each area, or are they parked somewhere downtown and then they respond? I've never really known that exactly.
We have 3 main primary patrol areas. When it's night shift, we have 2 per patrol area. Day shift, we have 1 per patrol area with a shift commander and a shift sergeant. During those times, we have, back in 2015, we got substations throughout Portage County in regards to town halls and village halls and items like that we have access to for internet and being able to be out there. So when they're out there, they check in. We have take-home cars where they can go right into their area, and then they are in that area for responding to calls.
And the other question is, like the shooting they just had on the north side here last week, are you ever called to back up the Stevens Point police when they have something serious like that? I'm guessing you do, but on other small issues like a fight in a bar downtown, do you ever get called, or is it always the Stevens Point police as a first line of defense there?
They would call for assistance on this one. They called and we assisted on that. And then anytime there's a traumatic incident like this, then the sheriff, the deputies relieve those officers to set the perimeter so that those officers in the traumatic scene can be relieved.
You have the MRAP and everything out there, I think, the other day.
That was Stevens Point's.
Yeah.
Yep, we have 2 in Portage, 2 MRAPs.
Okay.
Stevens Point has 1 and we have 1.
Thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. With Supervisor Splinters, I live on one of the far eastern roads of Portage County, and we have had issues, at 1 o'clock in the morning, and within about 20 minutes, we had 5 squad cars in our area. So it don't take long. So I commend the Portage County Sheriffs. They do a real good job. We had incident here, I learned this last week, in some vegetation fires that because of the technology that these cars possess, they pretty much had a suspect already as the officer was responding. They looked at the video and they had a suspect already aligned with some of the information that they had captured from the public. So it's well worth the money that we spend in the Sheriff's Department.
Yep, technology is getting better and it assists law enforcement every day.
Supervisor Moresi, then Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sheriff, for the report. It's always great to hear about the progress that you're making and the value to our community. This is a question for my children. They love the community outreach, and I agree that it's been great this year. We've seen in a lot of events. They have one request. They would like more Reese's peanut butter cups during trick-or-treating, just so then I can steal them later from their baskets.
Well, I'm going to give kudos out to the businesses because last year they donated $1,000 worth of candy with all the businesses here in Portage County. So my 13 guys that handed out candy last year, they were pretty good because the kids loved them.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, there's been
Use the mic, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, there's been a kind of a new trend of open records requests by different groups throughout the state, nationwide, on sheriff's offices. There's 1,953 records requests, and I see you have 2022s in here. What's that like historically? Are we doubling our open records requests? Are we, what's happening here locally? Because we hear about it in other counties happening. They're getting constant records requests. Some of it seemed that they had more records requests when body cameras started to become. I think all of us saw the footage of the Portage County officer on New Year's Eve. That had to come through an open records request somehow. Are we starting to see a lot more of those, or what's that trend looking like?
I would say in the past, the open records requests were a lot less, but they were a lot more time consuming because it was all paper. Now with the records requests in regards to emailing and automated in regards to our reports online, I mean, I'm talking from me when I first was on a typewriter, it took the administrative staff a lot longer. In regards to figuring out time, we just had one that was a pretty lengthy records request. That one we actually charged. It was $300 and some because of time and for digging up all the stuff that they were looking back for the last 10 years or so. But in all honesty, a lot of these records requests are somebody wants a citation, copy of a citation, or their report for their insurance purposes and things like that, and they can email it right away. So some of those are, but they definitely are on the increase, but easier to actually send out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Supervisor Pataki, did you care to add something or a question?
Yes.
Are you on the phone as well? Or can you unmute it, Stan?
Yes, unmute his screen.
That's the most sense he's made all day.
Everybody's picking on you.
Here's us anyway. He gives it to me all the time. Dan, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
You can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Just for information. Is there?
Yep.
Information for the council. Back in 1966, when I joined the sheriff's department, believe it or not, we had 2 people on a shift and 1 person. Called in sick, we had 1 person for the entire county. So we really, during the day shift, when the sheriff was, we have 1 for every area. We haven't come a long way. But we used to have just 2. That's it.
Thank you, Stan. Anybody else? We've got to help Stan out. We've got to help Stan out with some of his IT work. Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sheriff Lucas, for your in-depth report. I guess I would just like to add to it that when I'm out and about in my community, there's nothing but high praise for the Portage County Sheriff's Department. Kudos to you and your officers. I do have one question for you, and it's maybe not for you to answer, but I did notice when you talked about our ambulance service and you being part of the emergency management team, I noticed that the responder from Station 2 is very, very small, the area that it covers. Do you know why that is?
Well, that's
on page 35 of your, and again, if it's something that I will have to ask Stevens Point Fire Department, I will. They show the light green, the eastern part of.
I'm not going to speculate on that.
That's fine.
I know we're coming up to negotiations and we can discuss in regards to the areas, but I know it had to do with response and population and things like that.
Understandable. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you again, you and all your deputies.
Anybody else? It was a long one, Mike.
I tried.
Yeah. That's all right. You had a lot to cover. So. All right. Approval of March 21st, 2023 minutes. Motion by Supervisor Dubek, seconded by Supervisor Splinter. Any corrections or changes? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, approval of April 10th, 2023 minutes. Motion by Supervisor Barry Jakowski, seconded by Supervisor Laddick. Any corrections or changes? All those in favor with aye? Aye. Motion carries. Executive Operations Committee reappointment, number 9, reappointment of Lonnie Crogwell to the Central Wisconsin Joint Airport Board for a 2-year term expiring April 14th, 2025. Motion by Supervisor Laddick, seconded by Supervisor Suslevich. Discussion. All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, reappointment of Sandy Kratzky to the Land and Records Modernization Committee for a 5-year term expiring April 17th, 2028. Motion by Supervisor Jankowski, seconded by Supervisor Keller. Discussion? All those in favor with aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Confirmation of county executives' appointment and reappointments. If there is no problem, I will take them all at once, and I will take them as printed as well as what has been published. Motion by Supervisor Weaver.
I actually had a comment. I'm going to have a few questions on number 11, which may mean you don't want to take them all at once.
Okay, yeah. So so you probably should not make that motion then. So I'm not taking you as the motion, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Supervisor Soik, seconded by Supervisor Barry Jakowski. Discussion. Supervisor Weaver?
Like I said, I'm going to have a few questions about number 11. So in the interest of time, it may be easier to take that one out and deal with the rest.
So then, because we have a motion on the floor to take them all at once, you would need to make an amendment and to take that one out. So you would have to make such an amendment that says, I would like to ask number 11 to be taken out of the stack, or?
I would like to make an amendment to the existing motion to remove agenda item 11.
Seconded by Supervisor Moresi. Discussion on taking number 11 out of the stack of the rest of them.
The original motion.
Would that, are we going down the right path here? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Voting on the amendment to
on the
take out
amendment.
11.
Okay. Discussion. Okay. If there,
Just a quick clarification.
I've never had this happen before,
I
so
know,
we're treading on new water here.
I feel like we shouldn't have taken a motion to have them all because they were individual
I've done it in the past.
agenda items. So I feel like if we would have just avoided this, we could just have the conversation about 11 and then move on to 12 through 18. But
Well, at this point, you've got the motion and
Yeah.
the second to remove 11 from consideration of the rest of the slate.
sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the motion before the board.
No. So if there's no further discussion on taking number 11 out of the only comment I want to say about that, as far as, there was only one application. I think it was brought up before that there was only one application that was out for this position. Is that correct, Executive Pavelski?
That is correct.
That's Mr. Larson. So with that, we are going to
Do you want to do this?
take a voice vote on this.
Okay.
No, we better get it, bring it up, because it's, you better use the clickers. Let me know when you're ready. And this, again, is on the amendment to remove number 11 from the group of appointments. Are you ready?
Yep.
All those in favor of removing number 11, vote yes, and opposed, no.
Supervisor Pataki?
Did you see his thumb?
Yep, thank you. Supervisor Olson?
No. Let's see, we've got Dodge, Bulky, Splinter.
Not working.
Gotta hit the button, Mike.
Pardon? Right.
Bring up a battery.
Can you force it?
Got no battery.
You broke it.
Is there a number appearing on there?
When you
On
push,
your, okay.
On board, no.
when you push it, the no number shows up on the digital readout.
Set it up.
Nothing?
We'll bring you a new battery, just one moment,
Okay.
sorry.
I figured,
Madam
I
Clerk,
figured I couldn't have done that down, so.
District number 4 doesn't show up on that.
Yeah, I said that there already.
What's that?
District number 4 does not show up on that.
Oh, there's 1 through 3. It goes 3.
There you go.
It's on and on.
Ink's not on there.
How'd that happen?
I don't know.
I can just list my vote.
Good
Been
catch.
excluded, Dave.
I can do it verbally.
I can say I take it your District 4.
19 is missing as well.
Got it.
Those could be verbal.
Thank you, John.
No.
Sometimes I think
19
I'm
as
just
well.
getting maple in my head, and I'm going, what
So should I import
button am I
them?
not?
Can I add them? Okay, so should I import?
Oh, yeah.
Great software.
And we got 19 out as well.
Okay.
You'll have to close this vote and redo it.
We're not trying to put a man on the moon.
All right, so we're gonna have to stop that one and redo it. I
That's fine.
apologize.
Do what you gotta do.
Two numbers up there. Oops. Yeah, total of 25.
So should I?
But I mean,
They're up there. We're missing 2 people are like not listed.
Well, I could go for some chicken.
We've got to clear the slate, add them back in for some reason. We don't know why they were out, but add them back in there, and then we will have to re-vote on that particular amendment.
Some coleslaw. I love coleslaw. In case you didn't know it.
electronics.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was about coleslaw.
Yeah.
We just got it.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Always gotta look at the background.
Is it all up there now? 4 and 19, okay. Sorry
Maybe
about
it's not
that.
his office.
Okay,
When you're ready.
we're good.
Dave, you're up there.
Everybody's on there, okay. Back to the amended, and that is to take number 11 out. All those in favor of taking number 11 out, vote yes, and opposed, no. There we go.
And Supervisor Pataki and Olson, I'll enter in your votes. Okay. Motion fails 9-16.
Back to the original motion, and that is to approve all of them as printed, 11 through 18. Any further discussion? Supervisor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is no doubt the county executive's appointment. However, it is subject to confirmation by the Executive Ops Committee as well as the full board. I appreciate your comment that you made a few moments ago about one applicant. I don't sit on Exec Ops and was not at the meeting, so I'm going only on what's been provided in the packet. I do have some questions. I'd like to better understand what efforts the executive's office went through to solicit interest in the vacancy, and I would like to understand if the leadership of the ADRC was involved in, were they consulted about Mr. Larson? Were they consulted about the possibility of other applicants?
Thanks, Supervisor Weaver. Yes, I did talk to Cindy Petrusky, Director of the ADRC. I actually looked to her for applicants. Actually, she's having a hard time finding volunteers, and she did not come up with anybody. Mr. Larson came up, interviewed him. I thought he was an excellent applicant, and so the time came up to put somebody on the board. Nobody else was applying. He seemed energetic and willing to do the job, and so I appointed him.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Dubek and Supervisor Morris.
I believe, I could be wrong here, that Mr. Larson came here when we were considering making more money to the ADRC for their day treatment, their day program. I believe he came here and spoke in favor of that. So he's the kind of guy we would want to have on the board if he's willing to have extra money going to the ADRC.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moresi.
I have a question just about process more so than about personnel, but I looked on our website to try to find our application process for applying for committees and things like that, and I noticed that I couldn't find it. And it used to be on our front page, you know, just a little highlight there. And it was a little bit easier to access. I don't know if it's still there or not because I couldn't find it, but I guess I would recommend that we get that back on there because if we expect people to apply, it has to be easy for them.
I totally agree, Supervisor Marcy. That's one thing we're actually working on. We're actually updating the website with Civic Plus. That's one of the things we're going to be adding to. So I appreciate that comment, and it's in the works.
Thank you.
I see that Cindy is online, and you're unmuted. Cindy, did you want to add something?
Only that I have absolutely no qualms at all about having Mr. Larson on the ADRC board. He fits every thing that we require. He's over 65. He's a senior. He's engaged in our community. It doesn't, you know, I know a lot of people are concerned about his politics, but honestly, that does not play a role on the ADRC board. And so I have no concerns whatsoever about his being part of that board.
If there's no further discussion,
What's that? Yes, correct. The original motion,
Right.
considering all of them.
right, so back to the original motion. If there's no further discussion, you want us to, I'll just take a voice call on this one. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of all the appointments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 19, approving the new government facilities master plan concept at a greenfield location.
One moment.
Motion by Supervisor Soik, second by Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
This is resolution number 94-2022-2024 submitted by the Space and Properties Committee.
Discussion. Supervisor Splinter.
I just wrote some rough notes. I've talked before, and I'll keep it short. Our constituents, again, we represent 2,800 taxpayers in our county. Their number one trust in us when they vote for us is that we'll get the best bang for their hard-earned tax dollars that they put into our coffers. Looking at, again, tonight we're looking at a location of where this master plan will lay itself out over the next 20 years. I have to look out for the taxpayers first when it comes to a differential. And at the committee as a whole, I wanted our financial director, and I asked her to clarify exactly the differential, and she did. And I assume it's still the same. I mean, you can cherry pick, take this out, take that out, and start discrediting the whole process. But we hired qualified experts, and they're in the room tonight. We had all our meetings open to the public. When people say lack of transparency, I'm on the Space and Properties Committee, and I don't remember closing the doors on anybody. Anybody could have spoken. So that transparency has been there from day one, and I was insistent that we all get educated at the same level. So when we had information, we got the committee as a whole twice. We had questions, many questions we asked of our experts, and they answered all those questions that I understand. But when you look at it, when I have to answer to my taxpayers, because a lot of them, they won't know the tax implications of this until they get their tax bill in the mail. The news coverage on this process has been pretty poor. So they probably are kind of going about their normal lives, and they're going, they're talking about the courthouse and the jail, yeah. But when they get the tax bill in that mail, they're going to start asking questions. And when they ask me a question, my defense of going with a green space is that if I would have voted for downtown, I would have spent $104 million up front plus interest, which comes out to $171 million for our finance director. That's enough $1 bills to fill this entire room. People lose track of what that much money is. And to spend that much money and not get 1 square foot more of usable space, you're getting exactly the same space. That's a waste, and that's a terrible waste of our taxpayers' money. And I know the downtown people are getting pressured to vote downtown, and they want it downtown for various reasons. But please consider thinking into the future so that the money that is spent is not wasted, and because our kids and our grandkids are going to have to pay for this. I'll be long dead before they end up I'll get out of the tax bill on that somehow. So please remember that we were talking $171 million difference, and you don't get an ounce of extra items for it. For that amount of money, you could afford, again, I've mentioned this before, you could buy a fleet of vehicles and get people from point to point and wherever they have to go in Portage County. If you wanted to go to the courthouse, you get a free ride to the courthouse. And we still are probably $169 million to the good. So please remember that if it's not downtown, we have a lot of extra money that we didn't waste. I'm not here to waste money at all. And I can fully defend the fact that if it goes to the green field, and you may vote against it tonight, but when it comes up to funding, that's where things have to, you can't just do a protest vote. It has to move forward. This is like this, how many times we got to this point and everybody goes, oh, we can't do nothing. So if you want to protest yet tonight, I guess that's your prerogative. But when it comes to the money coming up on May 3rd or 2nd, whatever it is, please, let's all agree we need a new courthouse and jail and move forward. Thank you.
Supervisor Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They were talking, it takes a $3 bus to get, if we move it out. It takes me about $5 worth of fuel to get here every night, and another $5 to get home, which is kind of immaterial that way. For parking, it's very hard for parking. I mean, we get parking spaces here because it's after hours. when you talk about future growth, we're looking at, that thing was built, or this was built in 57. You take 60 years from now, if we would build it here, we've outgrown this now in 60 years. If we'd build it here, how far out would we outgrow this area if we did shoehorn it in here? It's just the ease of getting here. There's 13 traffic lights for me to get to, pedestrians that walk across the street on their phones, not paying attention that we have to watch out for. Plus there's one-way streets and bike lanes that we have to watch for also. I've been contacted by the township. I represent townships of Amherst, the village of Amherst, village of Rushholt, and the township of Alban. And I've reached out to and been contacted by the village of Rushholt, village of Amherst, and the township of Amherst, and they all said it has to go in a green space. Just, you can't Jimmy rig it downtown in a small area like this. It just don't work. So that's my 2 cents worth on this thing.
Thank you. Come on, don't be shy. Who's next? We got Supervisor Medine.
I just want to refer to the financial picture that was brought up by the first speaker. On page 122, I think is the chart that has been referred to, excuse me. Page 122. And that shows the greenfield site versus the downtown site. And it does state in there $105 million difference. The discussion on parking garage and the government services was, in my view, short-circuited. There's some additional information that should have been reviewed to consider those appropriately. So it's my understanding that the parking garage, even in the phased project, and certainly in the first phase, would be eliminated. That's $43,000 less than the $395,000. Secondly, the government services building is $63 million for 38,000, I think, square feet. That could be, is that close enough? I think that's the request that is shown up in here. This building has 52,000 usable square feet. And it has been shown to be, we looked at reviewing it, completely renovating it, it was $9 million. Let's say it was half again that much or twice that much. It certainly doesn't come anywhere close to the $63 million. So if the $395 million, we minus most of the $43 million for the garage, and most of the $63 million for the government services, that comes to $289,000. It's $289 million, which is the same as the $290 million for the Greenfield site. I think that my point is that that discussion was short-circuited and not available for us to have as a part of that financial picture tonight.
Supervisor Morrow, I'm sorry.
You know, I would like to thank the Space and Properties Committee. You know, I mean, I have faith in Al, and I have faith in Executive Ops, and I have faith in the people on Space and Properties, and I am so happy that I am not on Space and Properties. And I just think, like, we have to have some faith that everybody tried, researched it, did their job, and they came forward with the best option of a whole bunch of bad options. You know, it's all expensive, it's all messy. It's confusing. They're trying to put numbers together and then we're questioning the numbers. But I have faith. Like when something comes up from Health and Human Services, I hope that you guys have faith that I read it, researched it, and tried to make a good choice. And then you agree with our board's recommendation. And so I appreciate what everyone's done. And I just think this is getting long and tedious. I wish it was downtown. I'm going to get voted out of office probably because it's not going downtown. But I'm not going to get my way. And I'm not going to sit here and protest, vote, throw a fit, say threatening, rude things in the gallery. It's like, okay, I'm not going to get my way. I'm going to be an adult, and we're going to try to build the safest courthouse and jail we possibly can, and it's long overdue. So I don't know. I appreciate everyone that did all this work, and we're another $250,000 in the hole for this, for people to protest vote again. If we kill it now, we're just going to do this all over again in 3 years, and we're not accomplishing anything. No one is any safer. You know, someone's going to get shot, someone's going to get hurt at the jail, and we're all going to be sitting here after the fact pointing fingers. So I just think all of this, like I totally agree with Mike Splinter. He's tried as hard as he can. They sit here over and over looking at these options, and they're trying to put forward the best option. You know, the city of Stevens Point, even though I live here, I don't think it has any more value than Amherst or Hull or Almond or the town of Plover or the village of Plover. I don't think anyone should have extra consideration in Point, you know? So that's my last comment.
What I heard was that you wanted to be on Space and Properties.
No.
Supervisor Syke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I'm glad that this has come up this year and not my first year. I sat back here my first year and listened to, at the time, Supervisor Johnson speak on a full-wide campus approach. You know, with this vision she had of not just locking people up, but having the ability to rehab and work with and provide these programs that we do. And at that time, you would have not gotten me to vote for a jail downtown in a green space or anywhere. I wouldn't have paid for it. I wouldn't have voted to pay for it. I got on public safety, emergency management, and as I've been told numerous times by people up here to sit down and educate myself, and I have. And our finance department, I believe it was a year ago before I got on finance, and I questioned them, you know, what have we done to position ourselves to do this? And I think that night, if Daggers could have killed, I think Jen Josie would have had me pinned up against the wall. But I got on the finance committee, and I see the work they do. And like Supervisor Morrow says, I trust what the finance director is telling us. Why? Because I've sat down and I've educated myself. I am the first one to admit I am suspect of things I do not know. I was suspect of Supervisor Johnson's campus approach to a new justice center, government building, whatever you want to call it and wrap it all into. I was suspect of that, and I don't know if she still feels the same way today, but I agree with her. And I want to take my hat off to the public safety, emergency management, and finance for the work they do. Because there's a lot of times that daggers get thrown at them, our staff, and they don't have a chance to rebut. They have to go back to their offices, they have to go back to their cubicles and they have to do the work we ask them to do. So with that, I'm not going to take up any more of everyone's time, but I want to thank the people in finance. I want to thank the people that have done this hard work. And you know what? I am happy that this is coming forth today and not 3 years ago. So thank you.
Supervisor Gifford.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thanks for recognizing me. You know, I've stated all along my opposition to the Greenfield on the basis of the issue of the unsustainability of the urban sprawl mode of growth and development that has guided the nation for the last 50 years. Interestingly, I see Jeremy Solon in the back there, Portage County expert on sustainability. And I'm not able to talk to the county board about this, so I've been out talking to the community members, city council, and the other night, speaking of a campus approach, I went to a forum called Town and Gown about the divide in our community between the campus and the community at large, and why it is so hard to get ideas off campus into the community and be implemented. And the chancellor had called this, along with Mayor Wiesa and Ryan Karnofsky, and then the dean of Mid-States. So, you know, these are all people who would like to be heard a little bit more in the community. But I did, just to do some reading, I did a search on ResearchGate on the topic, is urban sprawl unsustainable? And from 2019 till now, I turned up 10,500 articles, mostly taking that position. The reason being that we're moving into an era of slowing growth and resource constraints that are going to make it very difficult to maintain a city with two separate downtowns, essentially. And as Director Karnofsky pointed out a week ago or so, you know, their department is trying to lure in employers, jobs, businesses, people who make stuff, you know, and the having the government buildings out there does not help with that process at all. And the other aspect of this is, if you look at the natural step system for sustainability, two of the conditions are not met by this Greenfield site. One is you do not, in a sustainable society, encroach upon your remaining green space. In other words, your grasslands, your wetlands, your forests, your stream beds, all of these things should be left unmolested, I guess I would say. And another system condition of this is addressed by what Mr. Badin has done, the sociological aspect. And I'll just read what is straight from the Natural Step website. In that sustainable society, people are not subject to conditions that systemically undermine their capacity to meet their needs. And in the case of the Justice Center, the needs that we're talking about are their needs to get through the system, rehabilitated, get out of the system, get back into the community. And for any number of reasons that Mr. Badin has laid out in his one-page essay, the Greenfield site would definitely systemically prevent a number of people from meeting those chronic needs that they have, which the sheriff's report shows. You know, we have a lot of people that are in need of a lot of rehabilitation and care, mental health care, all sorts of care, right? And So for those reasons, I once again reiterate my opposition to this urban sprawl site, as I call it. Thank you.
Supervisor Keller.
I was on the phone the other day with, forgive me, Kronowski, is that the gentleman's name from the city? And I had to check my phone today. It was 38 and a half minutes we were on the phone. And we had a great conversation. We both thanked each other, both found it very enlightening, but I'm quite certain I didn't change his mind any more than he changed mine. But I was reminded of something back circa 1991. There was a convention at the University of Whitewater for maintenance supervisors for the schools in the state of Wisconsin. And I was there because I represented one of the companies and I was putting on a clinic. But the gentleman in charge of the entire forum at the beginning said the theme of this year's convention is a new paradigm. And then he went on to explain that the bicycle was invented at a time when the horse was the main mode of transportation. Therefore, the bicycle seat ended up looking like and being called a saddle. Now, people who ride bikes a lot can tell you, and if you read any medical information at all, you'll see that the bicycle seat is not very conducive for the human being to use, especially if you're riding it a lot. So there have been many attempts to make a new style bicycle seat, and there have been some pretty impressive ones. I actually saw one and almost bought it finally, and then they were gone, so I didn't get it. But I don't ride the bike that much anyway. But the point to that is they come up with new things, but people are not comfortable with new things. They cannot sell that new style bicycle seat, even though they cost no more. They don't really look that much different from across the street. It's just different. The judges came and spoke about wanting the Justice Center downtown. The lawyers that work here want it downtown. The neighbors that live here, most of them apparently, or at least the ones that come here, seem to want it downtown. And I just truly believe this because it's simply what we're used to. There's a saying that I hear quite frequently, the only constant is change. Change is inevitable. Sometimes change is good. This country started as a country that had slavery. Women couldn't vote. There was a period of time in this country where you couldn't buy an alcoholic beverage. Things change. Sometimes not for the better, but sometimes they are. I've only lived here 15 years, as a matter of fact, almost exactly 15 years. So I'm probably one of the newer ones here. But I've had the advantage of living in several cities and watching them go through these transitions. And the ones that try to keep it the way it was struggle. The roads that they try to keep narrow become ugly and twisted and abandoned, quite frankly. We drive people into neighborhoods instead of on the main roads. People drive too fast in areas where we have kids playing in their yards. So those are all things that happen if you don't accept change. If we move the county to a different site, and green, by the way, just means it hasn't been developed. It doesn't mean we're going to take away some of the nicer land in the county. But if we do so, the city will remain here. Now, last night I attended the Common Council meeting. It was held at the police station because there apparently isn't room for them here. Maybe if we go somewhere else, they can move their meetings back here. So I just ask you to please, once again, please think, what if? Thank you.
Supervisor Oki.
Thank you. This will be brief, and perhaps it will engage the planners as well. So I get just a little caught up in the soft costs because I don't understand. I understand the urgency, and I appreciate all the hard work that committees have done and decisions that have been made in the past. But when I look at soft costs, or as it's printed in my packet, is there a timeline for the land acquisition? Is there a budget line for the land acquisition? Are these things that I've missed along the way, or and that will help me in my decision making, because my charge is to make informed decisions when I vote.
Is that your only question? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I would just want to know if we needed anybody else, so.
Yep. So I can respond quickly to that. So within the soft cost, there is a land acquisition budget. We did a study on what the average acreage cost would be, kind of on that outer perimeter that everybody understands we've been identifying as a potential greenfield area. On top of the land acquisition cost, we've also included assumptions for things like utility extensions and road extensions and improvements like that. So that is included in the soft cost budget. We've kept that specific number quiet because amazingly, that's how much the land costs, whatever our budget is. And so we want to make sure we're in a good negotiating position if a greenfield site is selected. Let's see, there's another question to that. Timing. We've included 2 months in the overall construction schedule to identify a greenfield site and have it under a preliminary agreement that would allow us to move forward with studies and make sure that it's the right fit, but not expend money on those studies with the chance at losing it.
So if you would just expand on that timeline beyond the 2 months to identify a site, in like including purchasing and, I don't know, any surveying that may need to be done, or if you would just expand a bit, please.
Okay, I'm going to go from memory. I do have a little bit more information in the schedule. So it's 2 months to identify it, and then I think we had it was either 6 or 7 months to, I'll say, lock it down in its entirety. Final negotiations, work with the city, make sure if there's any zoning or process that has to happen with them. And so we had a process laid out that it was early fall. This was assuming we had done this vote a couple months ago. And so let's say it would be late fall now, the land would be locked up, design would be moving forward full force. But we have a plan of what we can do in the meantime so that we can still make progress while we iron out any details with the land.
Thank you.
And to touch on that a little more, I know that I've seen it in either emails or comments have been made about if we were to acquire land on a green space, that the city would be responsible for possibly roads or sewer, water infrastructure or anything like that. I don't believe that is anything that we are looking at in any of these sites that would end up on the taxpayers of the city of Stevens Point. Supervisor Honnold.
I too appreciate all the work that's gone into these proposals, and I agree with Mr. Splinter about being really careful with taxpayer money. But my biggest concern about this proposal tonight, and it's one of the reasons why it's very difficult to support it, and that has been the lack of city involvement in the planning. We heard from Ryan Karnowski tonight, the community developer. Maybe I missed it in some of the meetings that were presented, or maybe this was discussed but the impact on the TIF for the city and the implication for taxes for people in the county, I don't recall that being mentioned as a cost. I mean, that's just an example. That's just one example of something that has come up to my mind more recently that I think had the city been involved all along, maybe we would have some, I don't know, some better numbers perhaps, or a better comparison of what the financial implications are for the city. And I know we're a big county and we represent the county, but what happens in Stevens Point really does affect the rest of the county. So that's my biggest objection to what's been presented, and that is, and I've heard that from many of the city leaders. Thank you.
So, Joan, I guess to try and answer the question about the TIF, the county doesn't do TIFs. As I'm asking our director if she could help with that question, but counties don't do TIFs. Those are municipalities that do the TIFs.
Right, I
city
understand
or
that.
villages. And the annex and 1039 are both in a TIF. And that was created a few years, oh, there's Ryan. Maybe you can help me a little bit with this TIFs question.
Thank you. Just for clarification, TIFs are reviewed and approved by each member of the taxing jurisdiction. So the county does have a representative on our joint review board, same as the school district, mid-state, the city, and then we also have a public member. But essentially, when a TIF is created, you have this base value. So what was discussed earlier this evening by Kathy Johnson is essentially the county will retain the taxes on the base value for the life of the TIF district. And the whole idea is the city then, as the economic development staff and working with developers, will incentivize developers to come in and do significant projects so that by the end of the life of the TIF district, that investment and the infrastructure that the city takes on and the debt the city takes on for that infrastructure, that's all paid for through new increment that's generated within the TIF district. And then at the end of the typically 21, 25, or 27 years, all the taxing jurisdictions get the jump in your property tax, that additional increment essentially. It should be noted too that this is often forgotten when we talk about TIF districts, is the county receives the benefit of the net new construction number every time that there's a project done in a TIF district. So the idea that the county doesn't benefit for that 21, 25, or 27 years is totally inaccurate, mainly because that net new construction number that falls within the TIF allows the county, the city, and the school district and mid-state to continue to provide services because of that. So TIF is really complex. I honestly think there's like a dozen people in the state that fully understand how it functions. I spent 7 years in my undergraduate and graduate studies studying TIF districts, so I'm not going to be able to explain everything fully in the next 20 seconds, but again, more than happy to answer any questions as it relates to TIF.
So as an example then, if I use the new Century building.
Yep.
Was that roughly 80 million?
Correct.
And before that, it was just a stretch of vacant lot.
Well, when the TIF was established, I believe the Holodome was still.
Holodome was there?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's whatever the value of the Holodome was, even though, let's say, 10 years after the TIF was established, the Holodome went away, the base value that the county's still receiving is that of the Holodome, correct?
Right. So when that TIF goes away, though, meanwhile, the county doesn't recognize that $80 million bump, and let's say the Holodome was $5 million. We don't realize the $75 million other than the 1.5% of net new construction.
Until the end of the TIF district, but you do get the benefit of counting the new construction as part of your levy limit increases.
At 1.5%, and that was just raised up from 1% not too long ago to 1.5%, I believe.
But that number is based on net new construction in the county.
Oh, now you got Jenny fired up.
The net new construction is based on whatever that value percentage is. So, you know, 1 year it was 1.24%, 1 year it was 1.87. It depends on what the increases in value are, but it's also the decreases as well. So if there's demolition or other things, it's the net of the growth in the county. And it's of all properties, those that are in a TIF and outside of a TIF. So as Ryan stated, we don't get the benefit of the increments until the end of the TIF, but we do get the value of the growth from the net new value calculation.
Yeah, and the
So
city,
we're on the same page
yeah,
there.
and the city doesn't receive that additional value. The TIF district itself receives the additional value, and we leverage that increment increase to service debt, to do infrastructure projects, land acquisition projects, developer incentives, things of that nature.
So that's how you fund all those projects.
Correct.
Clear as mud, Joan?
It is, but while Mr. Kornowski is here, Chair Haga, I wonder if you could talk about the comment that was just made that the city will not be on the hook for any of the utility expenses if we go, if we move outside of the city proper. The roads, the electrical, whatever, all of that infrastructure, that would be totally absorbed by the county? Or is that something that the city would be involved in?
We don't know if we need any of those things, and I don't anticipate.
I could address that too. So in a typical development within the city of Stevens Point, the developer is responsible for the installation of all public utilities, that includes paying for it all, and then the public infrastructure, the road, sidewalk, bike paths, whatever you might have, curb gutter, things of that nature. But when the project is ready, when those road projects and the infrastructure project is at a point of completion, the city does an inspection, and then the jurisdiction is actually transferred to the city. So the city does have long-term obligations to that infrastructure because it would become city roadway, city infrastructure. So again, the idea that the city would have, the city would have no impact on that is incorrect, because we do have the long-term financial obligations of maintaining the roads, plowing the roads, chip sealing, and replacing water mains, things of that nature. So just wanted to clarify that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the board. I'm confused, and if I may ask you a question, Mr. Chair. Was the city ever denied involvement? I keep hearing that if the city would have been involved, if the city would have been involved, if the city would have been involved. Now, I haven't sat through as many meetings as probably Space and Properties and or Finance committees have, but I have sat through several meetings, and I don't ever remember anybody telling the city that they couldn't be involved. In fact, if my memory serves me, and as I get older, it doesn't serve me as well as it used to. But if memory serves me, when we did ask the city to get involved, the city said, well, you either build it downtown or we don't want to talk to you. Now, our committees, our Finance Committee, our Space and Properties Committee, looked at all those situations because we said, okay, well, if you'd like it downtown, let's take a look at all the cold, hard facts about that. Well, those two committees have come to understand that it's just going to cost too much. We're going to be penned in. We can't even get by Department of Justice own standards. We can't get far enough away from the road to make the building safe. When we decided that we were going to build a new courthouse, one of the main things that we said was we need to make this safer for our employees. And we can't, under a downtown plan, we can't even get far enough away from the city street to meet the Department of Justice's setback. We can't even meet the minimum, let alone meet what they're saying that we should have. So when people keep saying, well, if the city would have been involved, if the city would have been involved, if the city would have been involved, we asked the city and they said, if you don't build it downtown, we don't want to talk to you. My last statement would be, I think we need to take the elegant summarization that Supervisor Morrow gave us. We looked at all the facts, we trust our committees, and I think we should all think about what Supervisor Morrow said when we go to vote. And thank you for your time, everybody.
To answer your question, we have had, I want to say, either staff or myself and the executive, 2, maybe even 3 meetings with just staff and the city staff and the county staff. We've, again, had 2 committees of the whole. We've had several space and properties meetings.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
was the city ever denied?
No, sir, they were not.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During public comment, Ryan Karnowski laid out a chronology, which sort of reiterated how there was some correspondence that went back and forth. If I remember correctly, in February, Karnowski sent a letter to the county asking for an open line of communication and reiterating their desire and willingness to want to be in a partnership to find a solution. That then prompted a letter from the county executive on March 9th, which essentially asked for the city's position on addressing our space needs. And in particular, it had a list of asks about the city's willingness to transfer properties to the county to accommodate those needs. That then led to a council meeting at the city, which Ryan Karnowski referenced on April 6th, where unanimously the city council said, these properties are all in play. In other words, they were willing to have a negotiation. But basically 3 business days later, we have a resolution that goes before the Space and Properties Committee proposing the Greenfield location, which is now a week later the resolution that we have this evening. I'm going to assume that between April 6th and April 11th, we've had no negotiations with the city. So I'd like to better understand who has made those decisions, and in particular, it makes me wonder why we would have sent this detailed letter to the city asking these questions, which then led to a series of steps, if we didn't have any intention of negotiating with them. So I don't have any information in the packet this evening that's going to address those questions.
So I think I can clear some of those up. Mr. Karnowski approached myself and Supervisor Jankowski after the Space and Properties meeting before the 6th and had mentioned the same timeline. And what I had mentioned to him was that all of you have received a list of the meetings and what the meeting dates were and what they were to be at each of them. And that went out in early March, because I had originally stated that we were going to have this question that we have before us tonight in the March County Board meeting, but I was asked to give it more time. Therefore, I paused it 30 days, and before we had that meeting, I know that memo had gone out to all the supervisors with all of the dates in place. I had dealt with and talked with staff and making sure that we had the right priorities so that things could move through. The letter that came, and I don't want to speak for Executive Pavelski, but these things that the city was saying were on the table. They needed a little more behind them, because if I or John, as the head of the county, were to say something, unless it has the support of the board behind it, means nothing, because neither one of us have the power or the authority to do that. And I believe what the executive was trying to do was get some clarification on those, and Executive Pavelski and myself were both at that meeting, and I believe Mr. Karnowski or someone here had mentioned the outcome from that meeting was the fact that everything was on the table, and that was a census from the board they gave us that night when we left. So that gave some more validity or validation to the things that were asked. One of the other things was a parcel of land that was across the street. They said that one there, if we needed it to bring it back, that one they'd still talk about it, but they said that one there, they wanted to pause on it, was the one next to the office building that's over there to the south of it. That one there is still on the table, but they said, if you need it, come back and ask us for that. But everything else was on the table. And that meant everything was free either, though. There was negotiation was the word. So it was a very loose and very general meeting, okay? So, yes, sir.
I understand that and appreciate that. I was at the meeting that you referenced as well. But I think what I'm asking is a slightly different question, which is, at that meeting on the 6th, the city says, yes, we are willing to talk. I agree, it may not be free, but they did not say, go pound sand. They said, we're willing to talk, yet on the 11th, we see a resolution come through Space and Properties for the Greenfield site. So again, what I would like to understand is, it would appear to me that a decision has been made not to negotiate with the city by implication. So I'd like to understand who has made that decision, because it seems to me that that should be for this board to be making.
Okay.
There's something important on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Too late for jumping on. So, just to address real briefly your question about that negotiation, those assumptions that were asked for in the letter were integral to being able to make the downtown site function. So if the answer had been no, then we were back to the drawing board to even make the downtown site viable. So it was important for us to understand that those are part of the negotiation in order to be able to tell you that the downtown site's viable.
Yet, we're here talking about the Greenfield site this evening.
Yeah, and again on that, there was 2 resolutions that were brought forward on Space and Properties. There was the Greenfield, and then there was the downtown. The downtown one was postponed 90 days?
July.
Till July, was postponed till July. So that's where tonight's resolution came from, was Space and Properties. Supervisor Soik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, in case anybody forgot, at the first...
Use the mic, please.
I am.
Oh, okay.
Is
And
it not
speak up a
working?
little louder, please.
Hello. So at the first committee of the whole, just in case anyone has forgotten, I outright asked the mayor if the city would support and work with us on a green site. And the mayor told me that he could not speak for his council, which I appreciate. And then I asked him directly that, Mayor Wiesa is the big kahuna. And I asked him directly, I said, Mayor Wiesa, will you support and work with us if we choose a green site? And his words were, no, I will not. Again, that's the big kahuna. Now, he did say he wouldn't speak for his council, which I do appreciate, but let's not forget, we all heard it, the big kahuna said he would not. Thank you.
Supervisor Matt Jakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was proven tonight that, I'm going to say this, that TIF districts screw school districts and counties in the short term. The Stevens Point School District wouldn't have had to have its referendum if it wasn't for TIF districts. Do the figures. Anyway, I was told at the last Space and Properties meeting by Tori Jennings that I'm part of a hand-picked committee that doesn't care. Well, damn it, I do care. I care about the users of the county courts system, the defendants, which of over 60% reside outside the city of Stevens Point. 60% of the defendants, over 60%, it varies year to year, reside outside the city of Stevens Point. I care about the $10 million tax implication that it's going to have on the taxpayers of this county. Now we've heard 100 million, 170 million. I'm just talking about phase one, a $10 million tax difference. Let's put that $10 million tax difference into perspective and what it would mean for a county. $10 million difference. Let's put it in county terms. That's 1,250 acres of parkland purchased. It's 40 new highway patrol snowplow trucks purchased. It's 35 miles of roads rebuilt. It's 103 new social workers hired. It's 131 Comtechs hired. We're short 5, Sheriff? We could have hired 13 a year for 10 years. We'd have the best communications center in the state. I guess we already do. But we could have the best one, the model in the nation. It would be 91 sheriff's deputies. Think what we could do with 9 more sheriff's deputies per year for the next 10 years. That's the difference $10 million makes. Oh, I did have one more thing, sorry. Urban sprawl. Mr. Gifford talked about urban sprawl. Mr. Gifford, Chair.
Yes, please.
If people are worried about urban sprawl, why does the city of Stevens Point keep buying farmland?
Is that, you're done? Now you're done?
I'm done, sorry.
Okay.
I had 2 sheets going.
Start a second sheet. Anybody else have anything to say? Supervisor Laddick, then Supervisor Dodge.
Hey, thank you. As most of you know, I've been in the construction business for most of my life, and building on a greenfield site is just so much simpler and so easy, and I am convinced we get better projects when we build on a greenfield site. I did take a ride over to Rapids to look at the Wood County Jail being constructed on Sunday, and so I called my friend over there, who's actually Todd's counterpart, and asked him how it was going. He said, it's going well. They ran into some problems with a lot of water this winter, pumping because close to the river, a lot of unsuitable soils. And I said, well, how is it going? Because, you got the building imprint, and you have the yard that have your laydown area. And it didn't look too bad when I drove by. They had about equal amount of laydown area next to the building, and they have the structure. And then up the road, just a half a block across the road, they had a whole big parking lot. They had stuff there. So, oh, that's pretty good. He said, oh man, he said, we're really struggling with that. He said, we had to try and coordinate a lot of just-in-time deliveries. So when the trucks came in, the crews are ready and keep everything moving. So if you get one driver that doesn't show up, the crew sits. If you got the crew behind, the truck sits. So he said, well, we can really use a lot more space than what we have. And I guess that's one of the things downtown, we don't have that space. And for future phases especially, you got to have room to set a couple cranes. There's just a lot of things that go into that if you haven't been around those projects, you can get very, very congested, and it's hard to move things along. So that was one perspective. And I know we have some people that think our downtown parking ramp is not needed. And I can tell you that it's always difficult to find parking down here. I can't imagine building facilities down here, taking up parking areas, and not building a ramp. I can't imagine that. So the other thing was with the, if we build downtown, it actually, in addition to being more expensive and having a 2-story jail instead of a 1-story jail, it extends our whole building project here with all the phases out into the 8 years. And to me, that's unacceptable. Thank you.
Supervisor Pataki, let's try this. We can't hear you, Stan.
Unmute.
Can you hear me now?
And shut the mute off. Do you have because you must be going through a phone, or what are you doing? Because we're getting a lot of reverberation.
No, my phone is hung up. I started with my phone, but I hung it up because I had a hard time getting on the video. Can you hear me?
Can you turn your volume down on your computer?
I wish I could.
Speak, if you can then, Stan, speak slowly because you've got a reverberation like you're announcing at a ballpark or something here, so.
Okay, all right. I represent the town of Dewey, the west side of the town of Hall, and some parts of the north side of town of Hall. I have spoken with many residents and by phone and in person. Just one resident called me and wanted me to vote for the downtown. Now, I promised her that I would mention that she called, but I won't mention her name. The people want me to vote for the green space mainly because of the downtown hall. Now, I think it was Jerry Bukowski mentioned something about 61% of the county residents outside Stevens Point use the courthouse and whatever else. The county population is 71,628. The city population is 25,580, and that fluctuates, I believe, with the college students. So if you take the city population, subtract it from the county total population, that leaves county residents outside of Stevens Point are at 46,048, which is the majority of people living in Portage County outside the city of Stevens Point. So I would challenge any one of these people who are representing the city board to ask their people if they're willing to spend tax money over $100 million if we stay in the city. All right, thank you.
All right. Supervisor Dodge, you had your hand up.
I guess this evening, the young ladies from solid waste reminded me of something. It was a project that this county board approved back in the early 90s, and it was the recycling center. And of course, the solid waste board thought the city has the majority of population, therefore the majority of the garbage and recyclables. So we worked with the city to site a recycling center within the city limits. Then all of a sudden, they decided, well, maybe that might be a little messy, whatever. So we were very grateful at the time that the Village of Plover stepped up and we could continue building a facility that we knew we needed back then because state law was going to mandate recycling. There are many municipalities in addition to the city that have trucked their recyclables to the Village of Plover at additional cost. I haven't made that calculation for the last 30 years, but I'm sure it's added up. And I guess my point is this board has the opportunity to look at an out-of-downtown facility. It may save us money, not cost us money. And I guess that would be kind of refreshing for a change. So also, I just want to say that the town of Sharon supervisors have also agreed we should go green.
Supervisor Moresi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks everybody for having such a fulsome discussion on this topic that's going to affect generations to come. I'm kind of in the same position I was at the committee of the whole, and deeply concerned about the pathway that we're going down, only because we have a lot of knowns with the city site, the downtown site. We know how much it'll cost. We know setbacks. We know that there are exceptions to those setbacks. We know it can be safe. We know that downtown businesses rely on not only county staff's business, but the thousands of people who use county services that come downtown to this building every day. So there's exponential support for that. I'm concerned that we're not getting all the information that we need or have requested. I've talked a lot about economic impacts and studies and numbers and data that would show the impact of moving out of downtown or moving to a greenfield site, and what businesses will and will not benefit from that. I have not gotten that information. We've gotten some loose kind of figures based on guidance that doesn't necessarily reflect the reality of the situation, rather kind of shows what kind of outcomes we'd like to have. And without that information, without a honest discussion about with our city partner about what negotiations look like, and if the land that they're willing to give up is at a cost, or if it's free, or if it's at the cost of $1. We don't even have that information here tonight. So again, we're making a decision based on incomplete information. Now, I know that our professional businesses that we have hired to do this work will gladly get us that information, but they need to be guided to do that. And frankly, I don't feel like they have been. And I'm concerned about that, because it just is panning out as in something we all, some of us wish could happen, or we want to see it happen this way. And it's not really giving both options a fair shake. We're going to vote tonight. It's probably going to pass. I think we all do the calculus on this and can figure it out. But I would ask again, are we certain that we have the funding? If we vote, even as city representatives, to put this in the green site, it's kind of like saying, yeah, I can give myself heart surgery. I can give it a shot, see how things go. But I think most of us want a professional taking care of our healthcare needs, someone we trust and care about, cares about us. And I don't feel like we're getting that kind of service here. I think we got to take into fact, or as a matter of fact, that we need real data, and unfortunately, I don't think we're getting it. I hope that people realize that the fastest path is to build in a downtown site. The fastest path to safety is to build in a downtown site. The fastest path to economic prosperity in our community is to build in a downtown site with data that we know and we have, and information that we have. Yeah, that's all I got for you. Thanks.
You had 28 seconds left. You're doing pretty good.
I'll use it later.
Anybody else? You had 28 seconds left. You're doing pretty good.
I'll use it later.
Anybody else? Supervisor Splinter, this time you only have 2 or 3 minutes. How much? 3.
I hate to put Supervisor Jankowski on the spot here, but he, as chairman of the Space and Properties Committee, has been involved in literally, I think, hundreds of meetings over this with our experts and everything. And before we vote, I mean, he's probably the most knowledgeable person in the room right now with all the data that's gone into his head. And I sure would appreciate some of his thoughts. I hate to put you on the spot, but you're so knowledgeable. I like to hear.
100 meetings and we have the green sheets to prove it.
I will comment.
Were they filled out correctly?
Yeah.
I will comment this way. We hired professionals to come up with an idea, and we gave them 2 options. We said green site and we said downtown. They put everything together and they gave us the facts, all the facts that we were presented as a staff and as a group. We looked at those staffs. We had our finance people work on the financing. We know it's going to cost more money to build downtown. I believe in the consultants and the people we hired, and I fully stand behind the decision that they made for us that the downtown is not the best option.
Anybody else? Supervisor Keller.
I'm sorry, just one last comment. I've been in the construction business for a long time. I took a 10-year hiatus, and now I'm back again. I've done several projects with Findorf. If anybody could get the job done downtown, it's Findorf. My first project with them was when they did the first remodel and expansion at Camp Randall. If we do the site downtown, it costs more money. The developer makes more money. The designer makes more money. The construction company makes more money. So they're not pushing it in one direction or the other. And my last comment is, if they were the exact same price one way or the other, I would still vote for the green site, not because I don't want it in Stevens Point proper, but because I truly feel it's better for the city of Stevens Point. Thank you.
Supervisor Medine, then Supervisor Machikowski.
Just a short comment. We've had what I would call a cardinal rule for the last 20 years, that the jail, courts, and LEC, Sheriff's Department, are all on the same site. And I think we all understand the importance of that. In the downtown site, the jail and courts would be moved, would stay downtown next to the LEC and general government building. In the Greenfield site, the jail and courts would be moved out now, and in 2036, the general government would be moved out. A little bit earlier than that, the sheriff's department would be moved out. We would have a separation of the sheriff's department and general government if we select the Greenfield site. So we would rely on a county board 12 years from now to determine if we should put the sheriff's department back out there with the rest of the courts and jail. Excuse me, courts and jail. I think that has the potential, a major potential, to violate that cardinal rule to not separate those 3 entities. This would automatically separate jail and courts within 1 year by 5 miles, roughly. That's it.
Supervisor Machikowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine in the construction industry from out of the area, and we got talking about this project, and I gave them the whole history of it. And I talked about some of the things that are going on now that people want us to do this study, and then now we want to do another study. He said, I've seen this before. He said it's called paralysis by analysis. And that's what we're trying to do again. We're going to go down that same hole of we need to have another study. We need to do this study. We don't have the complete data. We have experts here. Tegra, Dewberry, BWBR. I'm forgetting a few. Findorf, our purchasing department, our finance department. They've done the work. They've done the analysis that they felt necessary. If they didn't do the necessary analysis, they wouldn't have brought this. If they weren't in the business to do the necessary analysis, they wouldn't be here in front of us. They're the experts. They gave us two options. One has a higher price tag. One has a lower price tag. Both of them have pros and cons. Let's make the decision and move forward.
Call the vote.
So I've heard a couple of comments earlier on. I heard the heart of the county seat, and I would say that Stevens Point, the whole city of Stevens Point is the county seat, and I would say we are more right now on the western edge. And I don't know if all the rest of you got the response from DA Cousins about the 5 years, and Supervisor Machikowski talked about this a little bit. The question that was put to him was, how many people are outside of the county that end up in our courts? And it was, for the 5 years, it was 43 to 45%. And I think Supervisor Machikowski said 60-some percent outside of the city of Stevens Point. I've talked to a lot of people as well, and one of the questions when I first took this position as the chair was, are you going to have a referendum? And I said no. I said this is a complicated decision, and we had enough trouble getting 25 supervisors to take a tour of the jail or the courthouse and stuff, much less 70,000 that vote on it. And most of them are of the opinion, it's like, let them sleep outside in a tent. If they can't follow the law, I don't care. You know, it's like, and don't build it. But that isn't the reality, and and the rest of us all understand that. We were elected by the public to represent the public, and as such, we should be able to vote and make a decision. That's what we're here for. I've heard the public tell me that I don't break the law, I don't go to court, I pay my taxes on time, don't build it. I can't remember when the last time was I had to go down to the county to deal with something. And if you think you need to build it and stay out of my pocket. My taxes are already too high. That's the biggest one I hear from 80-90% of the people that I talk to. I know that we have a lot of issues and a lot of trying to understand all the moving parts with the jail, with the courthouse, and the security issues. And trust me, this is something that we need to move forward on and we need to get done. And I appreciate Supervisor Shabilsky had asked it at the last committee of the whole, where he asked, the vote was 14-11 last time, and why didn't we ask for the money? And it's like, because of the fact that it was almost split, that there was no opportunity to get to the 19 in any way, shape, or form. But again, I want to remind everybody that even after tonight and after sitting here several hours, I've heard nobody say that we shouldn't build a jail, whereas with the other county board, I did hear supervisors say we shouldn't build a jail. There was a couple of them. And I remember sitting here and one of those supervisors changed their mind and made a speech, and the sheriff wanted me to call the question at night. Let's vote on it tonight. It says, it sounds like they're ready to go and they understand we need to build something. We need to get this done. I've heard also that we have two separate downtowns, or we would have two separate downtowns. City of Stevens Point is very unique in the fact that it has, I would say, 4 business districts on 4 different corners of the city. If you think about it, you have the downtown, you have the stuff out on the north side, you have the stuff on the south side, and you have the stuff out on the east side. There's the hospital and some of the other things, and PJ Jacobs kind of in the middle of it. All the rest of the business districts are on the four corners, each of the four corners. And then I've heard about urban sprawl, and I've heard about the county taking something off the tax rolls. And that one I really, really have a tough time with, and I want to make sure that everybody gets the information and everybody is educated on so much of this. But the simple fact is that I spent about 15 minutes in my office one day after that was brought up, and I started clicking on properties. And I found out that the city of Stevens Point owns probably close to 700 acres, if not more, of land. And I'm not talking parks, and I'm not talking airport. I'm talking woods or ag land. It's all on the perimeter. Talk about taking something off the tax rolls, whether that's $7 million that the rest of us all get to pick up the difference on that, whether it's county tax, whether it's school tax, or whether it is mid-state tax. So I think that the county is taking 20, 25, 30 acres off the tax rolls. And then if that were to happen, I have a real strong feeling we are going to try and do what we can to put whatever else is out there back on the tax rolls and have it producing some revenue. Because let's face it, folks, that's how the government runs, is off of taxes. Sitting and holding land is not a way to run a municipality. So if there's no further discussion.
I have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll wait till Joan comes back. Supervisor Moresi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You bring up a really important question. If the county decides to move out to the east side and build a new property, how do they plan to redevelop and redesign downtown here? Because we own a significant chunk of land. Are we ready to demo the annex and the 1039 building and the city county building? Because that's really our responsibility to prepare those sites for future development. So how much does that add to the cost of the Greenfield site?
So the assumption there is that somebody wouldn't want it in its present state, as well as somebody would want it tore down.
I know
And
I
that
wouldn't.
would be a question that this body would answer. I wouldn't. If somebody were to approach us and want to purchase it, then we would bring that forward to this body to make sure that this body decides that. Again, one person doesn't decide any of that, so.
I know that, but has that calculation been figured out as a cost to the Greenfield site?
So.
Or BWBR or the executive can answer that, because that is something that we need to talk about, is that
So-
1039 is a building that someone's probably not going to really redevelop. It's,
Oh, I drove somebody by it today and they said that's a nice looking building.
oh
And I-
yeah, but that doesn't calculate to a buyer.
But again, that's your opinion, and until we know whether we're going to a green space or going to the downtown, that's an unknown. And again, you're assuming that it needs to be tore down. We don't know that.
Well, we have to be a good steward to our partners, correct? I mean, does anybody over in the gallery have a answer to that? Tegra, Mike?
I guess good stewards to our partner. We own the building. I guess I'm curious to who our partner is. It's
the city.
Oh, the city. Okay. I don't know necessarily, and you can't guarantee me it's going to need to be tore down. I can't guarantee you that it's going to be sold as it is. Until those come forward and are laid before us, this body will decide that. Supervisor Soik.
I'd like to call the vote, please.
So if there's no.
I have a question, actually.
Oh,
Thank you.
And I think
There was a statement made a few minutes ago that I believe was attributed to Tegra, which was that they had decided that downtown is not the best option. That's news to me. I'd like to clarify if that's accurate.
I don't know who made that statement. Don did, and I don't know if, and I would say that Tegra has not come forward. They have just laid the information before us.
I guess I should correct that. It was by the information that was provided to us that there was more downtown problems than there were with a green site. That green site was far more beneficial to us.
I think Supervisor Jankowski misspoke in that regard.
Okay, but I believe then the comments that he just made are also not fairly attributable to any conclusions that Tegra has reached.
So
Tegra is here, they could certainly clarify their position if they have one.
Call the question.
So, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, hold on.
Okay, good.
All those in favor with yes and opposed, no.
Clarify the question, please, Mr. Chair.
The question is approving the government facility master plan concept at a greenfield location.
Thank you.
All those in favor with yes and opposed, vote no.
Supervisor Pataki?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 15-10.
Number 22, authorizing a contract for services for the town of Albin Lind Road Bridge replacement.
This is resolution number 95-2022-2024 submitted by the Highway Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Laddick, seconded by Supervisor Soik. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor vote yes and opposed vote no.
Supervisor Pataki?
Give us a thumbs up or down, Stan. We can't hear it. There you go. Thank you.
Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 21, authorizing a contract services for County Highway R Construction Engineering Services.
Resolution number 96-2022-2024 submitted by the Highway Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Machakowski, seconded by Supervisor Sislevich. Discussion.
Yep.
All those in favor vote yes and opposed no.
Supervisor Pataki?
Yep.
And Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 22, Town of Lanark Comprehensive Plan Amendment and Portage County Zoning Ordinance Map Amendment Riverside Bible Conference.
This is resolution number 97-2022-2024 submitted by the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Larry Rakowski, seconded by Supervisor Barry Jakowski. Discussion. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
I'm sorry. It's getting late, folks. All those in favor vote yes and opposed no.
Supervisor Pataki? Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 23, approving and authorizing a joint development agreement between Portage County Solar LLC and the Town of Grant, the Town of Plover, and Portage County to construct and operate a photovoltaic electric generating facility.
This is resolution number 98-2022-2024 submitted by the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Moresi, seconded by Supervisor Keller. Discussion on photovoltaic. You guys do this on purpose to me, I don't know. There's no other discussion. All those in favor vote yes and opposed no.
Supervisor Pataki? Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 24, reappointment of John Aaron as Portage County Weed Commissioner for 2023-2024.
This is resolution number 99-2022-2024, submitted by the Land and Water Conservation Committee, Planning and Zoning Committee, and Executive Operations Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Barry Jakowski, seconded by Supervisor Gifford. Discussion. Ready? Okay. All those in favor vote yes and opposed no.
Supervisor Pataki and Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 25, resolution revising and updating the Code of Ordinance, Section 3.9, computer use policy.
This is resolution number 100-2022-2024, submitted by the Finance Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Rakowski, seconded by Supervisor Soik. Discussion. There's no other discussion. All those in favor vote yes and opposed no.
Supervisor Pataki and Supervisor Olson.
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 26, authorizing state and local fiscal recovery funds program, SLRF programs.
This is resolution number 101-2022-2024, submitted by the Finance Committee. This does require a 2/3 supermajority vote.
Motion by Supervisor Oki, seconded by Supervisor Medine. Discussion. Supervisor Keller.
I just wanted to share my disappointment that no one showed up to support this. That was a joke.
Okay. Stick to your day job. Supervisor Weaver.
Mr. Chair, the materials that are available in the packet indicate that Farm Shed asked for an amount, but was actually, I guess, awarded a lesser amount by, looks to be 3 members of the Finance Committee. I guess it's not clear why that was reduced, so I would like to understand that.
Chair from Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Closer to the mic, please. You got to quiet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The discussion was kind of the difference between the equipment for the facility and the rest of it was for staffing. It was my feeling that staffing should be paid for by the producers that will be using the kitchen, and that's why my feeling was to take the $150,000 out.
Who else was at that meeting from Finance? Was Supervisor Laddick?
I was there, and actually I made that motion, and we had asked them if they could live with just us financing the equipment at that point, and they said they would welcome that with open arms. So that was an agreement we had with them at that meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Supervisor Moresi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks to the Finance Committee for taking this up. We, as a community, we really appreciate it because they are a vital cornerstone to our community and our local food movement. I'm just curious about funding for other projects and the staffing, if we had other staff that was funded for their projects. So I went through and looked at these, and we have a number of staff positions that were funded with SLRF money, but it seems like this one wasn't. So I'm just curious as to why.
Supervisor Laddick.
Okay, so part of that was they were going to hire a new director, assistant directors, like for development, things like that. So, and like Chair Rakowski had said, it's part of that should have went into their cost of what they're producing. So we were covering part of the equipment. The installation was covered, so that wasn't part of their labor. It was just they wanted to hire extra staffing, which we thought they should be handling on their own. Some of the other staffing that maybe you're seeing was not in this. It was not apples and oranges. So it wasn't comparable really.
So it was apples and oranges.
Well,
It
for
wasn't
fruit,
apples and
yeah.
apples.
So we had asked them at that point, like, okay, if we're good enough to fund you almost $400,000 with equipment, would that kill your project, or could you live with that? And they both said, hey, let's go. So, I mean, they were on board with it. So I'm not sure why we're questioning it here.
Supervisor Weaver?
Mr. Chair, it looks to me like we have the executive director sitting in the gallery of Farm Shed, and I personally am having a difficult time understanding this sort of separation of equipment versus staffing, and it would be helpful to me if we could hear from the director. I'd like to understand what that additional money would do for that organization. We had a tremendous amount of support this evening for the project from community members as well as businesses that can be propelled based upon the economics of supporting Farm Shed.
I will allow it. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, co-packing, this co-packing facility is no doubt new to Portage County, and it's new to our operations. As we transition and I mentioned in my little speech in the beginning of this, we currently have a frozen vegetable processing program called Frozen Assets that we are this year officially, we've officially transitioned.
Sir, can I get you to make the answer short, though?
Yeah, sure. I guess short and sweet, we currently do have the talent on staff right now to activate a co-packaging facility. However, we are a lean nonprofit, and we would be creating 3 new jobs. One of them is a higher level administrator job, and then 2 of them would be simple processing positions and carrying out kitchen work. That would be greatly appreciated and helpful, and we could, hit the ground running in more full force with the equipment investment. Is it pivotal? No, but that's the short and sweet.
So then when the SLURF money runs out for those people that are paid, is there a plan to pick up those salaries, or what happens with those positions?
Yeah, for sure. In the business plan I provided to the the county
Finance.
board here, we definitely had a 5-year projection plan, and generates revenue in the black that would cover all of those 3 positions.
Very good. Somebody had their hand up. Supervisor Barry Jakowski.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it appears to me that we don't have enough information for this evening, and maybe we should postpone them making this award till we do a study or something, so we would have more information.
Is that a motion?
Can we just have some decorum, please?
So what's Supervisor Oki?
Just briefly, so I think the point is when you bring that kind of money into a new, like a upstart, having some of that behind the scenes staff, like food service staff, I'll call them, or your kitchen staff to really operate, which are really not high-end jobs or high-paying jobs, but it really kickstarts the whole operation and gets the name out for others to use or to really engage in. So I actually appreciate that request for staff because I think it's almost critical in many startup projects such as this.
And
Supervisor Moresi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question about, we have funded other staff positions in some of these other requests. And I'm just wondering why we have that standard. And while I totally agree with Mr. Laddick that they came up with a negotiation that Farm Shed said that they could do with the $387,000, Farm Shed's not in a position to say, no, we want it all. They're grateful. They're grateful and they want that. But if we do give them the positions, it does kickstart them. It does provide a valuable tool for them to have in their toolbox to actually do the work. And while, yes, the producers that are coming in and creating their own product will bring their own people in, there is still a lot of behind the scenes work that is required, and that's why I'm advocating for the staffing positions.
Director Josie. Twice we've made her get up tonight and talk to us.
I'm reviewing the listing that was provided in your packet of the projects that we've supported kind of since receiving the funds. So I guess I'm wondering which specific programs, because the majority, I'm just kind of scrolling through and looking at the programs, and the majority of the programs that involve staffing or surround staffing are either county staff or existing county programs or expansions of contracts with agencies that already provide county services for the most part. So if there's a specific one that you're looking at that you're indicating, I would be able to comment on it. But as I kind of am scrolling through, most of them are existing county programs or county staff expansions.
And those were the ones I was looking at. It looks like on the page 190, everything except for the bottom two were had staff positions. On page 191, family court administrative support, well, obviously the chief deputy position.
Correct.
I did have a question about the CWA Small Community Air Service. If that one had any positions. The Children's Service Society of Wisconsin has 2 full-time positions.
That's an expansion of an existing county program.
Thank you. And then the Stevens Point Child Safety Center, which our family used quite a bit, and I definitely support, but I don't know if we gave them $110,000 worth of car seats, so that has to be administrative staff.
No, and that's really nonprofit, just organizational support to their budget as they go out and find a permanent partner, because to kind of prevent them from seizing their operations.
Yeah. So
That really was the intent of that one.
Okay, well, I appreciate you.
So that's, I mean,
Good education.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Weaver.
I actually think we have an opportunity here to fund a not-for-profit which has the potential to give back to the county considerably and its residents. I'm not aware of anything within our program which would say that we cannot fund something because it's related to staffing. And I actually fear that we're shortchanging Farm Shed by trying to separate this to say, we'll give you money for equipment, but we won't give you money for staffing. So in that spirit, I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution so that we fully fund their proposal in the requested amount of $537,000. $537,266.
I have an amendment.
Second that.
I have a second by Supervisor Moresi. Any other discussion? Jennifer, is that you gonna be fine? Okay, I'm just checking because it's slurf and arf and everything else, but, so, all right. So,
That was awesome.
that's where we needed to get to, was the question about the amendment. So all of those in favor of fully funding, Central Rivers Farm Shed, this is the amendment. Vote yes to fully fund it and vote no to not fully fund it.
Yes, to fund the staffing part of it. Correct?
Yeah, to include it. Yep.
We're only voting on the amendment.
Supervisor
On the
Pataki?
Supervisor Pataki, thumbs up or thumbs down? Up.
Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 15-10.
So now back to the original resolution as amended. If there's no further discussion, as soon as you're ready. As soon as you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. All those in favor as amended, vote aye, and opposed, no.
Thank you. Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Back to my agenda.
Motion carries 23-1.
There you go. Next item, number 27, authorizing a 2023 budget amendment and transfers. Motion by Supervisor Dodge, seconded by Supervisor Rockman. Discussion. Do you have your hand up?
Due to the previous amendment, do we need an amendment on this? Or
Speaker to the mic, or is it?
Due to the previous amendment, do we need to change any of this?
No, you do not. That'll be on your next meeting. It was failed to be put in the last finance committee packet, so it's behind a cycle.
I just know when we had SLRF.
Yep.
ARFP, whatever, alphabet soup before. that we
Yes,
had.
thank you
That's
for
why I asked.
asking.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. We're all good? All those in favor, vote yes, and oppose no. Stan's got a thumb up.
CU Pataki. Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
Number 28, authorization to enter into a contract with Powerback Rehabilitation for Therapy Services under emergency provision.
This is resolution number 103-2022-2024 submitted by the Healthcare Center Committee.
Motion by Supervisor Shabilsky, seconded by Supervisor Moresi. This is what Marcia's been here for all night, sitting here all by herself.
Sorry.
Waiting to the end.
Let her talk, let her talk.
And we'll just take some time to take the vote. No. All those in favor with, Supervisor Matt Chakowski.
Mr. Chair, who did we have the current contract with? Or is this a service we provided in-house? If Marcia stayed, she might as well work.
Yeah. Asleep. Oh my gosh.
Thank you for that very pertinent question. At my tenure, we've always contracted out due to the tenuous nature of securing therapists. I did also update with our head of our HR to see if there were ever any possibility. Even the large group therapy programs are having difficulties. So at this point, it's probably our only answer. So thank you for asking.
So we were currently contracted out with a company?
Yes, Select Rehab, and they gave us a change of business notification.
Okay, so was there any penalty for them?
No. Absolutely. They gave us a 90-day notification, which was very sad, but they said we no longer met their business model.
Okay, and I'm assuming the new contract has something written in there to protect us?
It is only an emergency one, so it's a year, and it will be then bidded out. But we
Okay.
had to get someone in, and 90 was even cutting it tight, so.
Sure, I understand that, but I'm just kind of saddened that there's no penalty for dropping a contract.
I'm gonna get everybody up here tonight.
Make it mark.
I need my buddy.
23 minutes, guys. And I'm back.
He might be the contract section. I think this answers your question, or probably doesn't quite answer your question, but there was a 90-day out clause in a contract. Most contracts have that 90-day out clause. They gave us 90 days warning. And then, so I would say that the next contract we have, it's very challenging to get more than that. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Ready? All right. Everybody that's in favor, vote yes, and opposed, vote no.
Thank you, Supervisor Pataki. Supervisor Olson?
Aye.
Motion carries 25-0.
I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Loddick, seconded by Supervisor Sislevich. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I think I
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.